Hi, this is Mark Meir, the voice of Commander Shepard, and you're tuned in to the EnteR ChazmaN podcast, my favorite podcast on the Citadel. ChazmaN and Phoenix, let the conversations begin. To the Normandy.
What's going on, everyone? EnteR ChazmaN here. We're back once again with another episode for EnteR ChazmaN podcast we got going. This is your place to hear all of the up-to-date major video game news that has kind of piqued our interest throughout the week. If you guys don't know, as always, I'll just say up above my head right here, I should have the locations of where the audio version of our podcasts are, or where you can find them. The video, of course, can be found on YouTube. And watch out throughout the week on my EnteR ChazmaN channel. I do post highlights. Just in case, those might be super entertaining for you guys to consume some of the topics individualized without, maybe if you didn't want to watch the full, 2 hours normally our podcast run for. If you'd like to submit any questions for the podcast or you have suggestions for future topics, please feel free to leave any comments down below or reach out on any of my social medias. Once again, that is EnteR ChazmaN at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I guess we are all ready. Phoenix, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm alive, so that's good. This is like the busiest time of the year for me. All my jobs and projects kind of culminate like right here in the midst or middle or end of April. So I'm just staying alive, surviving. But there's a reprieve in the future, so I'm looking forward to that. But
I feel
other
you,
than that,
man.
I'm good.
The same thing, man. This last week has been like I know we're kind of a few days late. This episode's gonna be getting posted a few days late, but man, this whole week I've been so tired. I feel you. So today, if you guys wanted to know, kind of a little tease, what we're going to talk about is we're going to be rounding off our thoughts with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Me, Phoenix, and a few other friends did finish the campaign, and we have been kind of going a little bit on it, but we'll talk about that. Also, another announcement. What would you say, Phoenix? This just happened maybe 2 hours ago?
Oh, the Kingdom Hearts stuff.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts. It's probably only been posted for about 3 or 4 hours.
It's been a little longer than that. It was Sunday evening Japan time, so that was sometime this morning.
Really? I didn't even realize that. But yeah, so that'll be our first major topic. That's a Phoenix topic. That's not a ChazmaN topic. And then topic number 2, we're going to be going into Unreal Engine 5. They had some sort of an event where they kind of were just talking about how they're releasing Unreal Engine, so we'll talk about that. Then we're going to be going into our Halo TV series chat, where we're going to be talking about episodes 2 and 3. And lastly, we had kind of a little fun little thing I wanted to bring up with Phoenix. I won't touch on that right now. We'll save that for the end to let you find out. Anyways, Phoenix, we did get to finish Tiny Tina's Wonderlands over the, not over the weekend. We finished it sometime during the week. But
it's about a week now.
Probably. And we have actually been playing it, so I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I actually played for a couple hours today earlier by my lonesome. Everyone else was busy. But Phoenix, I'll let you go first. what did you think about the end game, the campaign, the story? Were you satisfied with how everything wrapped up?
I guess. This game, the narrative wasn't, the major focus. It was fun, but definitely didn't, outlive its welcome, I'll say that. It's relatively short in comparison to the other Borderlands games, but I'll tell you, I even felt like this in Borderlands 2. And I really like Borderlands 2 from a narrative standpoint.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's great.
I feel like the last couple of hours dragged a little bit. And I kind of liked that this one was just a little shorter. So, the ending was made a little anticlimactic. It kind of happened kind of quick, but, it had a little bit of a reveal in there. The boss battle at the end was cool. So, and really, I think for most people, they were probably caring about getting to the end game. That's really what matters in a game like this, because once you get past the narrative or the campaign, then that's where you're going to be at. So I think, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, is it kind of harsh for me to say that it was easier to kind of accept that it was a little less anticlimactic, being that I guess in a way I kind of approached this game as a lesser serious, I approached it less seriously than than Borderlands 3, because that was a direct sequel, whereas this is kind of a spin-off. Was it kind of harsh for me to say it that way? You know what I'm saying?
Harsh. You had different expectations, as did I. I'll tell you, when they first announced this game, I couldn't have cared less. And I actually really like Borderlands in general, but I think BL3 just kind of, didn't leave a sour taste in my mouth. I was just very kind of meh on that whole experience. So when I saw this, I'm like, they're just gonna milk that whole Tiny Tina DLC concept.
I just
to
mean
death.
I had a
Not
higher
worth it.
expectations, like you said, for 3. So like that being that being anticlimactic was different than this because like you said, we went into this kind of like with a sour taste after Borderlands 3. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good, but that's kind of my point. Like, coming out of that game, not really having expectations for this, and then I think being pleasantly surprised that as it was released, you're hearing a lot of like positive reviews and buzz around it. So, I was kind of peaked out of nowhere to give it a shot, and the experience that it presented was, I think, pretty solid. It was different than a mainline entry, and I think that was good. I'm glad it didn't take itself too seriously. I'm glad it kind of separated itself from the standard, Borderlands narrative, and yeah, maybe a little anticlimactic, but overall, it was satisfying. I've been enjoying the end game. I mean, it's not like anything super robust, but the Chaos Chambers were fun. I ran all the way up to Chaos 20, so I did that pretty easily.
Even finished one. I think the last time I played was with you guys during that one where you failed. You failed me at the end.
Oh man. That was a thing. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't done the Chaos Trials. But there's some hidden bosses you can search for. So I don't know, I guess I'm not going to call this a gripe necessarily because kind of the first time this really happened to me in a Borderlands game. Like I usually get pretty good at ending up with a fairly strong character, but I never feel like the characters I've made in the past have ended up being like straight up broken. Mm-hmm. This character I've made feels broken
because of all the Hydra heads and whatever.
Yeah, so for those who have played the game, I'm going, Graveborn, whatever it is, and Spell Shot with a focus on the companion build. And man, I'm throwing out it's like 10 Hydras. I started throwing Pixies in the other day and like all these boosts to it, and it wrecks everything all the way through Chaos 20. Like I never struggled, never had an issue. The only issue I ran into was during those boss battles. I ran out of ammo, and of course that kind of broke my build. But it was just weird because it's definitely taken the difficulty aspect away from the game. Not that Borderlands was ever, crazy difficult, but it definitely had its moments where, you had to kind of hunker down and fight through something. And I haven't really felt like that in the game now. I don't feel like I've gone out of my way to break my character either. I've just used the gear and the mechanics that are in there, and it just feels very overpowered. I'm not trying to complain about that, but
I will say, unlike some of the other Borderlands games, when I was playing solo earlier, it's really easy. Like, I remember with Borderlands 1 and 2, it was actually fairly difficult to kind of go out and play solo. I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, I'm not quite sure if that's because of how OP, I don't remember how OP we got in the first 2 games, but man, I was just breezing through every side quest and everything earlier when I was playing. And in Borderlands 2, I remember, man, it was almost not fun going out by yourself, but sorry.
I mean, it depends, man. I think there were definitely moments in BL2 that I think... how do I want to say this? I mean, didn't feel overly difficult, but it had its moments. I think in general, this game does feel easier, but it might just be, once again, the build I've kind of ended up with, which is, I think, been another kind of weird side effect. Like, typically in a Borderlands game, you're always waiting for that next drop. You're waiting for the next new gun with the next crazy feature, but maybe it's just because I fell into this OP build so quickly, and it really is kind of niched out where I only care about one type of gun. If it's not a gun that, I can throw and spawn Hydras, I don't give a crap about it. So like half the legendaries that drop, I just look at them like, meh. So I haven't really updated my build in probably the past like 10, 15 hours of play, really. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if it's getting stale necessarily, but it's missing that component of that gear grind. Like, not that I'm not looking for new gear, but the benefits I'm finding are real marginal at this point. So I don't know, maybe it's just I got to that in-game kind of cap really quickly, or what it is. I am looking forward to the DLC, so maybe that will kind of be a chance to push the build a little bit further and get a little more out of it.
When's that come out again? Did you see
it's
it?
Like the end of this month.
Oh, interesting.
It was like April 20-something, which I didn't catch the first time, but the game did launch with a season pass, and they already have the DLC coming, which I think is good. I think a game like this is going to need that quick kind of turnaround, and I guess they just did a hot fix or hot patch for it that introduced like new featured, Chaos Chamber, I think some like buffs and some tweaks to some of the gameplay elements, so they're definitely trying to keep the game updated and add some new content, which is nice.
Yeah, actually, it's why you were mentioning how OP you were able to get. I actually kind of recently, for my character, which I went with a Berserker and a Spellweaver, I actually did kind of find a kind of OP way of kind of creating my character where, I don't know if you can see, but on my screen, there's they kind of have these two things here. They're like almost like the grenades, right? From the previous games.
Your spells?
Yeah, your spells. Those almost act like your grenades. I was assuming.
Kind of. I mean, I think spells are a lot more varied than
Well,
grenades,
yeah,
but
yeah,
to
yeah.
a
But
certain
that's
extent.
kind
Yeah.
of what they replaced in a way. But
Mhm.
actually, with my spell weaver, I guess along with my berserker, I'm not even quite sure how I did it. I kind of just been I haven't been paying attention, just throwing numbers at things. But now all of a sudden I've overpowered. I have both of them in both slots now. They're both like lightning bolts, and they're over or they recuperate like so quickly that I can just continuously throw lightning bolts, and I almost don't even need to shoot my guns anymore because I have two of them, and it's just like
Yeah.
pew pew like the freaking like Darth Sidious just running around. Ah!
And that's been one of the cool things about this game. Like, if you think about any traditional Borderlands game, it usually comes down to the gunplay because, that's the whole point, right? Get the new crazy gun, see what it shoots. But this game, like, it gives you so many, like, other options for how you engage with the enemies. Like, you could go all spells. And, like, kind of sounds like that's how you've kind of ended up with, like, a quick recharge spell
Yes,
build.
yeah, it's
And
pretty
then
much yeah.
never shoot it. Same thing with my Hydra build. I'm just chucking Hydras all the time. I almost never shoot the gun, which is weird. Which is neat. I don't know if that has detracted me from maybe enjoying that aspect of the game because I'm not spending time with all these cool, unique guns. I'm just like, it's not a Hydra, so I don't care. And I also, and once again, it might be a byproduct of me falling upon this like kind of broken, crazy build initially, but I don't really have a lot of interest in trying all the other classes. I don't know, maybe that's just me
No,
being a little...
I can totally see that. I'm enjoying my one class so much that maybe it's like you said, it's because you're so overpowered. It's like, well, what reason do I have to try a different mix?
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm sure the other abilities are fun, and maybe I'll play around with them a little bit, but I can't imagine them being a whole lot better than what I'm currently running. So I don't know, and that's cool in a way. I said this is like the first time I've kind of fallen into like a broken or really high-powered build like this, so that's been fun to kind of have that power fantasy, but I don't know. I think I'm probably going to be getting towards that point where it's a little stale. Of course, new content's coming. I still haven't completed a lot of the side quests, so I'll probably start focusing on that. But
I just got
I've
done
enjoyed it.
doing I knocked out a whole section earlier, and I got done doing this area that's like based on Pinocchio. There's like
I did that one.
Geppetto
Yeah.
and everything. It's
That one got weird and dark
it's
towards the
super
end.
weird, yeah.
I thought it was going another direction too, but it was something.
Its main
The side quests had been pretty good.
its main quest in that area ended super quickly. Like I thought there was going to be this whole thing when you go in the whale, and it's like nope. It just that main quest just ends once you go in the whale, and you have like a tiny little battle.
Yeah. I will say a lot of the side quests though I've enjoyed, and I think a lot of the Borderlands games usually do that pretty well.
The turtles from 2.
Oh yeah, the turtles, and they have the Smurf tribute one, and this one
Oh,
with the Smurfs.
I've been quoting that in text with you guys nonstop.
Yeah, I noticed.
That's probably my favorite one so far. Smurf you.
Yeah, Murph, yeah. So yeah, man, I've been enjoying it. I think it's been a nice surprise because, as I said, I've always liked Borderlands, but I definitely felt like it either got stale or kind of, just I fell off on 3. So this was nice to kind of bring me back into the Borderlands kind of a franchise a little bit with something that's fun. It's light. It's not taking itself too seriously, and the gameplay's fun. I don't know how long ultimately I'll keep playing it. I mean, down the line, something I'm sure will pop up and take my time, but I've been enjoying it for what it is.
I guess just a couple little things I wanted to add that I've really enjoyed with this game is I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but I love the character customization. This is by far the most enjoyable and thorough like character customizable abilities that they've had in any Borderlands game to date. I've been running around looking like Kung Lao the whole time and running around with my giant hat.
Oh yeah, the you're talking about the actual like aesthetics and stuff.
Yes, the customization
Oh,
of
yeah.
just like there's so many different ways you can make your character look. I think it's by far like the most thorough. I don't know. What about you?
Oh yeah, no, I've liked that. I mean, I know before they didn't do that because I think the characters that they provided, they wanted to have like a narrative tied to them, so they kind of curated their look and their personality a little bit. But I've liked just having free reign over, and granted, it fits the whole D&D kind of aesthetic. You make your own character,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm still unlocking new customization options for like different hats and helmets and weird stuff, which I always like a game like that. It's daunting at first though. I was very surprised to see just how in depth it was the first time we turned on the game, and that definitely I think slowed us down as we were getting the game going because we all took like an hour just building our character. But I like that. I always like a game that gives you the customization. If you don't want to do it, you can just skip right past it and hop right into the game with a pre-build, which is nice.
And I guess just one more thing I think's really incredible was the voice acting I feel like I've really enjoyed the voice acting. Ashley Birch is great. Valentine, Ashley Birch, Andy Samberg, Wanda Sykes, Will Arnett. And I didn't even realize, but my character voice that I chose is Chris, what's his name? Vegeta. I didn't even realize the entire time I've been playing this.
Sabat?
Yeah, it's Chris Sabat voices my character, and I've heard it.
Oh.
I've heard it off and on, but I don't know why I never was like, is that Vegeta?
Do you have like the weird kind of pompous voice? Because I think I might have that same one.
He's a very deep voice, and it kind of sounds European in a way.
Yeah, I think I have the same voice, and
it's
know,
like
now
Irish
that
or Scottish and it's like a very
that's the one I chose. But now that you mention that, I can hear Vegeta in that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I looked it up because I'm like, who voices this guy? And it said Chris Sabat, and I'm like, oh, okay. I've heard Vegeta a couple times in there.
That's very cool. Yeah, the voice acting is good. And to be fair, I mean, in most Borderlands games, the voice acting has been pretty
They find
solid.
interesting people to bring in, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, good game. I give it my thumbs up. I guess approval.
A quick question. The only question I really had was, where does this rank for your Borderlands games?
Borderlands 2 is still my favorite.
Definitely.
I think just from beginning to end, that one's gonna be hard to beat. And maybe it is because of the narrative and the characters. Like Handsome Jack is just one of those iconic villains now. Like he stands up, I think, with some of the best of them in gaming.
Safe to say the pre-sequel and 3 are probably the least, right? You're probably lesser?
3 is definitely, for me, the last one. Pre-sequel, so I only played through pre-sequel, I think,
I didn't
one
get to play
time.
much of it, yeah.
And I think we were playing with friends, and we kind of just plowed through it so fast. Like I think we beat it in, like,
a day.
Was it a night? Or
it was like a day.
Yeah, so it was... Yeah. So I missed so much of it, and I didn't really have the interest to go back and, like, really dig into it. I heard good things about it.
Didn't we make, like, a big LAN party, and we filled your fridge up with adult beverages, I remember?
That sounds right.
We had, like, we all brought our PCs over.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how that went down, and it was fun. I mean, the game itself was Borderlands,
you
and
used up all
that's
your
the
power.
one thing. Yeah, Borderlands with friends, no matter which one you're playing, is always going to be fun. Like it's just built for co-op, which is really nice.
So, do you prefer this or 1? I think I might like this more than 1, but 1 is a nostalgia.
I'm probably the same. But 1, this is a better game than 1.
Oh yeah, can't help it.
I mean, it has more story, has more personality. I think what I like about 1 though is it's kind of that weird kind of offshot one, it feels like, because it was when they were trying all this stuff out. It didn't have that really like polished narrative, but I kind of liked that it was kind of like open and empty. It almost felt more desolate because of it. Like I don't know, it wasn't trying to be as much of a comedy, which I thought was interesting. Like it definitely had its comedic moments, and I think the DLC really played into that.
One felt very like dark humor.
That's what I was saying. It felt darker, and not that the other ones didn't do dark humor. I mean, this one very much does.
They all have it,
but I think because 1 wasn't so focused on this like main antagonist, it was a little more mysterious because you didn't know was it Angel that was the voice that kept like like you didn't know what she was pulling you towards. And granted, the final ending was kind of anticlimactic. It threw some weird stuff at you out of nowhere. But
was that the one that ended with you fighting the door beast,
big vault creature?
Yeah.
But I liked it. I mean, it was just that was like a very, I think, special gaming time in my life. Like that 360 era was, I was going through college, played a lot of games, but it was like I was really into Xbox Live and the social aspect. So I know that was just a game that really kind of checked a lot of boxes at a certain point.
That was one that you turned me on to like much later after it came out. Like you had already been big into it, and then I think that was one I rented from Blockbuster actually, when Blockbuster was a thing.
Yeah.
No.
So, I mean, I'd probably say this is my second favorite. Borderlands 2, then this, and then 1. But just for very different reasons. 1 is definitely not the better game. Granted, some of the DLC in 1 I think was really solid, like the Dr. Ned's zombie thing.
Oh, I forgot about that. And then there was
Trap Revolution.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Like really, I think that's what kind of set the tone for Borderlands 2 was that DLC. Like the game itself was just kind of like treading the waters in areas, but didn't really like double down on anything. And then the DLC really took a chance to kind of okay, this is gonna be the tone and the kind of style we're gonna use for Borderlands moving forward, and that's what's now evolved into. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I think 2, then this Tiny Tina's, and then 1, and the rest of them, they're somewhere just mixed down at the bottom.
Fair enough. Oh, I forgot about what was that?
The Telltale?
Telltale. I forgot about that one.
That one I really liked.
That one I really liked.
That's like pure narrative.
Yeah. I totally forgot. I was just thinking, I'm like, there had to have been one more.
I don't know if I can even put that one in the ranking. It's because it's a different game.
I freaking love that game though. That was really good.
Yeah, no, the story was great. And I like that they in 3 they kind of brought it back a little bit because the one guy
With arm guy, what is his name? I don't remember his name.
yeah, they like in 3 he had a mustache and he was a whole like guy, and I don't remember the whole narrative thing. I kind of wish they dug in more to that. 'Cause you never found out what happened to the other half of the other character, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe down the line, Borderlands 4, 5, 10, I don't know.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of rounds up our thoughts. I feel like we've kind of closed the door on Borderlands. I mean, maybe I don't know. I feel like maybe when the DLC comes out, maybe it might be fun to talk about what we're thinking about that. But I guess as for now, I mean, I feel like I can kind of move on from Borderlands. I'll probably still play whenever you guys are on, but I actually really enjoyed playing solo earlier. There's oh gosh, I'll add to it. There's definitely a different feeling when you play a Borderlands game solo. Like, I definitely feel like for me, I can't multitask with Borderlands. So like talking to you guys and playing, but like playing solo, I feel like I can focus in on like a lot of more story and a lot of more like the voice acting and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm
sure when we plowed through the game, we missed so many like
references,
kind of neat narrative beats and references and side jokes. And maybe I think that's probably why I didn't like the pre-sequel as much. I mean, I think there was probably a really good game in there. For the people I knew who actually took time and dug into it, they act like they really enjoyed it. But we literally just plowed through the whole campaign, and that's kind of the nature of the co-op experience in this game. You just kind of branch off in a direction, and like some people are doing one quest over here, the other ones are doing stuff over here, and that's cool, but it's chaos, and you just miss so much. So yeah, it's a nice kind of single session where you're playing through, gives you a lot more time to focus in on the nuances and appreciate things a little differently.
Not that I don't love playing with my buddies. You guys are great.
Oh, I hate you guys. Not kidding.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it is a different flavor playing solo versus with people. So let's switch back on over Chrome. I feel like now's a good time. Let's move to the big news of the day. We're going to move on to the announcement, apparently, of Kingdom Hearts 4 and 2 other Kingdom Hearts oriented things. I guess for some background from me, I've tried to play Kingdom Hearts 1 twice, and I've given up twice. But I've been wanting to go back through and try them. Phoenix has kind of talked me into that. Phoenix, which ones have you played to completion? 1, 2?
Really just the main lines. I did 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to think if I played like a lot of times I'd start the middle ones, like Chain of Memories I played most of. That was one that started out on that was Game Boy Advance.
I think I read somewhere this is like the 16th Kingdom Hearts game or something.
I've nowhere touched any of those. I think I did some of the 3DS one. I think that was Dream Drop Distance, but none of them I really spent a whole lot of time with. And I've only liked them for the main like entries. I'm okay with that. I know they have so much other crazy nonsense going on in between, but I'm good. I like just kind of picking up when the main lines pick up.
Do you like this series more for its Disney ties or more for its Final Fantasy ties, or do you just like the mix?
I like a good balance between them. And I tell you, it really depends on the game we're talking about. Man, I'm trying to think even where to start with this franchise.
I'll be honest, I don't know what Phoenix. I don't know what Kingdom Hearts fans like the most. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like it's a good question.
It's such a big thing. Like it's a game that has so many elements to it, both good and bad and crazy, all kind of mixed in. I mean, what really hooked me onto the game, I think the first one came out when I was in high school, which I think that it was a weird thing at first. I heard about the game, and of course, in high school, you don't want to be associated with Mickey Mouse. That wasn't the cool thing back when I was a kid, so I didn't really have any interest initially. But I had some buddy just raving about it, and he turned me onto it. And I think what hooked me was just the gameplay. Like at the time, on like the PS2 era, I can't think of many other games that had kind of that real-time like RPG action gameplay style. Like Final Fantasy 12 kind of leaned that direction, but most of the good RPGs were all turn-based, which I like turn-based, but if you want an action kind of real-time fast-paced game with an RPG style, Kingdom Hearts was kind of the forerunner in that at the time. So it hooked me on that. The Disney stuff I thought was fun when done well. Like some of the Disney worlds, I'm definitely not a fan of with the way they kind of play out, but there's a little bit of nostalgia there. I did grow up watching my fair share of Disney
thought
movies.
For what I did play in the original game, that was my favorite part, was just kind of the unknown of where you're going to be going next. Like that alone, I felt like sometimes was tantalizing enough to be like, all right, I kind of want to play a little bit longer just to see where I go next. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I liked the connective tissue they kind of brought in with the Final Fantasy stuff, and of course the stuff that was just focused on the Kingdom Hearts narrative. I always feel like the games always kind of suffered towards the end a little bit, like the convoluted nature. I think doesn't really hold up well at the very very end of a lot of them, or they get a little cheesy, or a little corny. But the build up I think to the ends are usually pretty fun because they get a little dark and they get a little off putting in some places, which I enjoyed. But yeah, man, I'm trying to think to even like express my feelings about this franchise. I'm a little lukewarm on it nowadays. I enjoy it for what it is. 3.
I remember you saying 3, yeah. Oh, you're just going to talk about it. I remember you saying you weren't crazy about 3.
Yeah, and I think that's the general consensus. I'm sure there are those who feel differently about it. Like 1, really enjoyed. 2 was probably my favorite because that one's where they just kind of dug in and like went crazy with it. 3 just was disappointing in a lot of ways. If you are playing this game for the Disney aspect of it, 3 was a letdown, man. At least in my opinion. Like all the Disney worlds inside of it, man, I'm trying to even remember them all now. So you had the Toy Story one, which I thought was a huge just bit of wasted potential because
that's one of their largest like IPs Disney has at the moment.
Oh, like Pixar in general, as a wealth of good IPs and stuff to kind of dig into. And Toy Story, man. The problem is now you didn't play 3, right? You have no kind of.
I have no frame of reference whatsoever.
So the Toy Story thing started out really, really promising. You start out in Andy's room for like 5 seconds. I think that's
what they showed in all of the trailers mostly. They showed a lot of the Toy Story stuff.
Yeah, and I think what's so I'm sorry, I can't speak. What's so disappointing about it is you start out in Andy's room, feels cool, you're kind of down at that toy level, and like you go out into the street for a minute, and then the rest of the next I don't know how long that area was, like 3 hours, you're in this mall. And once you get to the mall, at least to me, I did not feel like a toy anymore. It took me away. It wasn't even like an established area from the movie. It was just a place they made up. And I don't know, it didn't feel like Toy Story. Like you were just shrunk down in this mall. That's all it really felt like. Why are you in this mall?
For like the toy stores that were in there?
When there were a bunch of stores, there were toy stores. There was like a video game store. I can't even remember, to be honest, exactly the point. I can't remember the actual narrative for why they brought you there, but it just, I don't know, it felt like a wasted potential. There's so many locations inside of Toy Story to go to, and like cool things that you would want to experience, like running through Al's Toy Barn would have been cool, something like that. And
forgot about that.
None of that was there. And I think that's what's so weird about these Disney worlds is you never know what you're going to get.
Do you ever get to go into the claw machine?
No, none of that.
Was it Pizza?
Nope.
What's it called?
No Pizza Planet.
Planet?
None of that.
No, Pizza Planet.
And that's what's so weird about the Disney worlds go one of two ways in Kingdom Hearts games. They are either super, super accurate and authentic to whatever movie they're trying to, scenario inside of, or they are completely just like completely opposite. It's like this whole different spin-off just kind of related to that world. And Toy Story went that direction. Completely different. It had nothing to do with any of the movies. You had the characters there, but it was this complete, thing just for the game. And to me, that was a letdown. But then on the other spectrum, you have the ones that went just, one-to-one recreation, like you had the Frozen world. I hated that world. Granted, I'm not the biggest Frozen fan. I probably watched it 100 times with my daughter, but Frozen is by no means a top tier Disney animated movie to me, but you played through the movie 1-to-1, like every level. They even did what was it, the Let It Go song they had tracked in there from the actual animation for the movie. You had to watch the entire thing. It was grueling. So that was part of it. The worlds that were good, man, I'm trying to even remember. What were the other worlds in that game? I almost need to pull up a list now.
I don't remember.
But none of them. None of them were super memorable. Most of them, I don't think, really capitalized. Oh, they had the Pirates of the Caribbean one, which that went on way too long. That one felt weird. I
forgot Disney owns. Well, yeah, I guess Disney. Yeah, that is.
They had Big Hero 6, which that was a weird one. Like, man, none of the Disney stuff I think sold well. Well, not sold well, but sold itself well, if that makes sense, or came across well. So the only thing I really enjoyed about 3 was the gameplay. The gameplay, I think, was as solid as ever. And I think for those who are looking for kind of the, the payoffs from the Kingdom Hearts convoluted story, you started getting some of that. So I kind of played for those moments. But in general, it just, to me, was relatively unsatisfying.
So when So when can we expect your video on the plot on each game
Never.
on your
And I
YouTube
know,
channel?
no, not a chance. Not a chance. I'll get so flamed so fast. And I'll say I'm not a big enough fan at this point to even care. I'm surprised when you're ranting this much about 3. I feel that strongly about it.
Could you say that the plot to these games is similar to like the Zelda games, where like they're so hotly contested between the fan bases about what exactly is happening? Or is this franchise a little bit more toxic?
No, there is a very clear. There is a. Okay, I gotta think of a way to
Clear
phrase this.
thread with Zelda, you're trying to say?
Well, what do you mean when you say? Like you're talking about how people like compare which Zelda is the best? Like, what are you saying?
I just mean like when it comes to the plots of those games, like there are people that have different interpretations as to what's happening, when's it happening.
Oh, no.
Whereas like with these games, I feel like
everything's very explicit in these games. Like they'll have some mystery, but there's no like, oh, I don't know if that happened in the future or the past. Like there is an answer to everything in there. It is just the most convoluted, answer you could search for, and you have to play 5 games to have the answer. So I think that's where people get in arguments about it. You have the people who are very, just passing Kingdom Hearts fan who know just a little bit about the story, and then they, play 3, and they're like, man, that story sucked. They didn't wrap up anything. But then you have the people who played every game, and 3 wraps up all those games. And for those, I'm sure it was a very, very satisfying ending. It's just weird to kind of balance out those two, because Kingdom Hearts 3 towards the later half, man, that was an ending for all those people who played all 1,000 games, or however many there were. Those who only played the mainline games, I mean, were probably just scratching their head. I know for certain parts. I'm just like, okay, whatever. That's a character I've never seen, but they can do a thing. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But with that being said, so I know we're spending a lot of time on this.
I was just getting ready to say back to 4.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
And I am intrigued about this. Like,
or actually, we'll switch back over. I mean, just to show what they announced exactly, they have, what is this title?
Mobile game.
Well, no, the mobile is the next one, because they have Union Dark Road, I think. This didn't look like a mobile. I think this is some sort of tiny indie game. And then, they move...
Or iOS or Android. That's mobile.
So are they both mobile? Because then they have this one. Which in this one, they actually show like the look of it in terms of like a phone.
Well, it's definitely mobile. I don't know. Maybe the first one's like an update to a game that's already out.
Because this one's called Missing Link, and the other one's called Union something.
I think that Union Cross, whatever, I think it's a game that's already out. I think I could be wrong. If there are any Kingdom Hearts
I'm
fans,
already confused, and the games aren't out.
Yeah, there's so many. And I'm not really interested in these. I don't play the spin-offs for the most part. I think my brain would turn to mush if I tried to keep track of them all.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I like Kingdom Hearts for the gameplay. Even if the story is weird, this gameplay looks pretty cool to me. Like, I think I would be into, down to trying this out. I know a lot. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna quick question: Does PlayStation still has the rights to this franchise, right? Because I remember the last one didn't come to Xbox immediately. Didn't it come out like 6 months or a year later?
I think 3. I could be wrong here. I'm pretty sure 3 came out to all of them. Now the first couple didn't come out to Xbox.
Because I thought it was 3 came at a later date, but I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too. I feel like it was on both systems, but I could be wrong. So I don't know. I don't know who has exclusive rights to it. I don't think it's exclusive to Sony anymore, but I could be wrong.
Someone in the comments would be like, "You're wrong. This is what's happening."
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I don't know for sure.
I don't know either.
From my recollection, I'm trying to. When did I play Kingdom Hearts on the first time? I'm trying to look. I have it. I played it on PS4. Okay. So yeah, I guess I couldn't even say. I don't remember if it was on 360 or not 360. It definitely wasn't on 360.
Giant monster. It's actually killing people. Interesting.
Yeah, and like the Kingdom Hearts stuff gets kind of dark too during parts. Like I like where it goes. I mean, it gets a little cheesy too, and it's the power of the heart. But at the same time, it's got some crazy boss battles. The action in real time is a lot of fun. So I know a lot of people are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, how are you? Are you okay with smaller shoes?
I was just about to say.
I noticed that. I
don't care. I know a lot of people are up in arms about it, but this I'm looking at this as like it's a fresh start to this franchise. They can do whatever they want because in the last game they did wrap up that old story arc.
Look how
all
tiny shoes
games.
those are. Such a
Well,
shame.
it fits the world they're in. And that's one thing that is interesting. Like, yeah, I guess it isn't always this way in all of the worlds they visit. But the whole point is that Sora, when he goes to different places, he changes his aesthetic. So in this world, that's probably how he should look. If he ends up still going to other Disney worlds inside of this game, I bet he'll change. Maybe his shoes will get bigger again. Who knows? We will see.
But yeah, it looks interesting. I mean, I don't know. To me, they've always had a very Square Enix look. I mean, they're made by Square Enix, but like, I don't know. For some reason, I've always associated it more with Square Enix RPGs rather than like Disney oriented stuff. Which is that a fair thing to say? Do they lean more into that?
I mean, a lot of people play them for the Disney games, but I'll tell you, they've leaned far more into either the Final Fantasy side of it or really just their own Kingdom Hearts lore at this point, which is pretty much Final Fantasy at this point. The Disney stuff is just there to, I think, kind of tie some stuff together. I'm curious how heavy it's going to go into straight up Disney next time, at least as far as like the animated movies. A lot of people, are theorizing, Marvel could make a big appearance in this. I think there was, I missed it, I think, in a trailer. Somebody was saying there's something showing that there might be some Star Wars connections in there. And I don't know if I am a fan of that or not. I mean, I don't know. I think it's neat that they have all these, IPs to play with, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, whatever it may be. But I think a lot of times those certain IPs get I'm sorry. I'm dying over here. Get shoehorned in. Like, I felt that with, like, the Frozen game. Not Frozen game, the Frozen world inside of the last one. That felt like that was, mandated by Disney. You must have Frozen in here. You must let this song play out, 1-to-1. Like, I don't feel like there was a lot of... I don't want to say not a lot of passion in it, because I'm sure the developers put a lot of time and effort and some people really cared about it, but it did not feel like what's the way I say this? A key or integral part to that game. It felt like it was kind of soulless to me. And I don't want that to be the case if they bring in like Marvel or Star Wars, where it's like, okay, well, we got to check off this Star Wars world box that we were told to do, and then it's just some lifeless recreation of, Force Awakens or something like that. I think that's what we're a little worried about too. They're probably going to dig into the newer Star Wars and not the older ones, which, new Star Wars. So
I just want to see Wolverine claw people to death, claw Goofy to death. That's what I want to see in my.
Oh, that's everybody's dream, isn't it? I'm intrigued. I like Kingdom Hearts for the gameplay at the very least. I've gotten to the point where the story, no matter how weird it is, I just kind of turn my head off too. So I'll check it out whenever it comes out.
Sorry, I just read this whole article while you were talking. I was trying to listen and read it, but yeah, the article doesn't really say anything. There's no substantial like date given. There's nothing.
Oh no, and it was like a minute-long trailer or something. I mean, this is just basically saying, hey, it's definitely coming. I know the last game ended with, and I think this game is clearly going into it, like Sora ends up in, I don't know if you played this game, The World Ends With You. Are you familiar with that at all?
I feel like it sounds familiar. I don't know. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
I don't know a lot about it. I think it was it a 3DS game first? Oh man, I can't remember. Either way, it was a game that had already been out. And I guess he ends up in this other franchise, essentially. It's not even like a Disney-related one. So I'm curious how this might even branch into other non-Disney-related IPs. Because to my knowledge, that game, The World Ends With You, has nothing to do with Disney. I think it might be a Square Enix game, potentially. I could be wrong even on that. But will we see these characters actually go to like Final Fantasy worlds? I think that would actually be interesting. Like, you see a lot of Final Fantasy characters in these games, but very little of them interacting in like, you don't see them going to Midgard or something like that. I think that'd be kind of cool, like seeing these characters like, hop into the Final Fantasy worlds and hop around. So I don't know. Maybe there's room for it to kind of lean into that direction. Clearly, the art style is going that way.
Chop off Donald Duck's head. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they already have Sephiroth in there. Like, like, if you want that, you can go see that right now.
Wasn't he in the first game actually, or no? It was a different character from.
No, Sephiroth's been in every. Was he in 3?
He was in
I can't remember. He was in 1. He was in 2 for sure.
What's the character you talked to in the very first one with the 3-headed dog?
Leon.
Which one?
Oh, well, Sephiroth. What are you talking about? And 1 or 2?
In 1, there's a scene where you before you fight the 3-headed dogs, you're talking
to Cloud.
Oh, you're talking to Cloud. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Sephiroth is in that. You fight Sephiroth in the Hades arena.
Interesting.
And then 2 is like out in the icy world, whatever it was. So 1 and 2 you definitely fight them. I don't remember if 3 had Sephiroth. Oh man, someone's gonna be flaming me in the comments because they know they had another like really intense hard battle, but I don't remember if Sephiroth was there.
I think the
I don't know.
my big question for you is, I don't remember in your room. Do you have a Keyblade? I don't remember if you do or not.
No keyblades. Okay, I lie. I don't have like a life size keyblade. I got a little like keychain set that has all
No,
the.
no, no, that doesn't count. Nope.
Oh, I don't need a big keyblade, man. I'm good.
No, it's
No,
not.
I'm not big enough fan.
It's not a real game room. You can have a Keyblade.
No,
In
guess not.
there. But
Just
yeah,
give me-
like I said, guys, there wasn't really much for me to add. I've never played through a full. I've never had to play a full playthrough through any of these games, and I would say I'm mildly interested. I mean, I'm mildly interested in anything that gets announced, but yeah.
Let me ask you a question because I know you've started these games. One, I know a couple of times. What keeps turning you off to it? Like, what about it? You're just like, this is not for me.
I felt like it was a difficulty thing, but I think the first one I remember I've told you before, but I got stuck on the Ursula part. I don't remember why. The Ursula part was just like.
You know,
brutal.
Chaz, I'm starting to think you're just bad at games because
I've never said
first
I
was
was.
Elden Ring, then it was Tunic, and now it's Kingdom Hearts. I mean, come
I
on.
never said I was good at video games. I don't know where you. I don't know.
Next week you'll be like, man, that Pong game that just kicked my butt. I couldn't finish.
Hey, I collect games. I didn't say I'm gonna beat all of them. I mean, when I do that, you'll know. But I definitely think I definitely think this year I do want to replay at least the first one and maybe get a thing going on there. Because they are games I've been tentatively interested in. I just.
Well, kind of keep in mind, maybe I mean I don't know how you play these kind of games. I play them. I mean, they're RPGs, and I'm one who likes to grind a lot. So before I leave a world, I will like do all the side quests, grind a little bit. So like difficulty usually isn't a big issue for those kind of games for
Maybe
me. I think you might push through a little quicker. Maybe
yeah, I
that just,
do. I do.
so you just need to slow down a little bit.
Maybe the next time I play it, seeing as how I've had some stuff spoiled, maybe I'll use a guide. I feel like I get so. I feel like some games might be good to have a guide with you, and I almost always don't like having a guide, but I feel like maybe I need to start kind of like, maybe kind of, I don't know, what do you think about using guides when playing new games or not? I don't know if you...
Oh man, you play it however you want to. I think it depends on what I want out of the game. Like, I typically try not to use a guide on like my first playthrough. So I guess as kind of a perspective on that, I used to use guides all the time for every game I played. Like back in the 360 days, because I was going for every achievement. I was super big into getting all those. And I think there was a point I was working through a game, like following the guide step by step. And I think I looked up at the game like, I'm not even enjoying this anymore because I was following the guide so closely. Like, I wasn't just playing the game. And it was a fun game. I think it was like, it was Bulletstorm, I think is what was my epiphany moment.
I love Bulletstorm. That's a good game.
Yeah, and I liked the game, but I was like trying to go out of my way to collect all these things and do all this stuff. And it was slowing the pace of the game down. And I think I just looked up and I'm like, why am I bothering to get like 10 achievement score or whatever? And finally that just, flipped a switch in my head. Didn't care about achievements at all after that pretty much. So in general, I don't now go to a guide. I mean, if I need to know something, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll pull up a guide. I'm not going to, beat my head against the wall for 3 hours trying to find something, but I usually just play it as it is. If I miss stuff, I miss stuff. If the game is good enough, I'll come back and play it again. Or I like the games that give you a chance to come back and still clean up afterwards. And then if I want to refer to a guide, I will.
Well, because
Kingdom Hearts, I don't think you really need a guide for. You just need to take time and just enjoy like looking around the areas.
Well,
now, if you don't think you'll explore, then maybe get a guide.
Well, because you've seen my gameplay, my playthroughs of some Zelda games. If I didn't have you or anybody else in chat guiding me, those would definitely be games where I would get frustrated and probably would have dropped. Now, those
To be fair, though, Zelda games can be a little more convoluted by nature. Like, they're a little puzzly. Even some like boss mechanics can be a little weird.
So you would say some of those are good to approach with guides?
Yeah, like if you're someone who's, for one, you're adverse to puzzles. You're just like, man, if I have to run into whatever puzzle, I'm going to give up on this game. Then yeah, get a guide. Don't frustrate yourself.
Because that's what I read about Elden Ring. A lot of people said that. A lot of people were like, dude, this is not the game. If you're inexperienced with this franchise, to like, this is the kind of game you need to have a guide. But I don't know.
That's interesting.
All right. So yeah, I guess I don't know. What were your last thoughts? Are you excited for Kingdom Hearts 4?
I'm not gonna say I'm excited. I am intrigued. I will probably play it. I said the gameplay I enjoy enough that I will give this game a shot unless I hear terrible, terrible things about it.
Just say you're excited.
So,
You're gonna go pre-order the $300 Mega Edition. Get a keyboard.
oh yeah, I finally get my Keyblade. Yeah, it comes shipped in it.
Yeah.
Solid gold Keyblade.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's all I've got to say about Kingdom Hearts 4. We're going to move on to something else Phoenix actually threw my way. I actually didn't even know about this happening, but there was an Unreal Engine 5 event that happened where they were... actually, let me pull up my notes. I don't know. Did you want to kind of get it going, Phoenix, on this event?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not sure how many of your ChazmaN chat fans are all that into like the techie stuff. I've always when I have time, I like to dabble in some game projects as kind of like a design hobby.
And you don't have to go into specifics, but you are very knowledgeable, and maybe you've said it before. You're not as knowledgeable in the business aspect, but in the design aspect, you're pretty good on it.
No, you're overselling me quite a bit. I am a hobbyist at best. I'm not a professional by any means, but I do like to keep tabs on stuff. And I've done some. I mean, I'm a programmer, so I definitely like to dabble in the engine and stuff like that. And I understand the workflow to a certain extent, but I definitely don't want to oversell my talents, because if there is anybody out there who's a game developer and I speak out of place, I apologize profusely, because I am certainly not in that league. But
well, you're the smartest dev I know. There you go. That's mine.
Well, you gotta grow your community of people that you know, Chad.
Yeah.
Anyways, I like game engines, so I'm a nerd in that perspective, because I mean that's what all of our games are running on. I mean, the name says what it is. It is the engine running your games, and if you are curious about what games are going to be like in the near future, turn your sight to the engines, because that's going to explain what the new features are going to be, the graphical processes, all that stuff. And I've used Unreal in the past. I haven't really honestly been involved like messing around with it as a hobby even for the past 5 years or so. I mean, I spent a fair amount of time in Unreal 3 and a little bit of time in Unreal 4, but I mean, it's always been, for one, an extremely popular engine. I think based upon this showcase and some of my research, I think it's like over 40%. I think it's like 42 or 43% of all the games out there run on some version of Unreal, which that's a pretty big percentage when you really think about all the games out there and how many companies use like in-house engines. Like 40% is a pretty
and it's
popular
not just
market.
games. I didn't even realize, but I mean, this Unreal is huge in like video game and film, filmmaking.
Yeah, back up just a minute on your YouTube video on go to that little film spot if you can.
Right here.
Yeah, when they're panning the camera through. This is one of the coolest things, and that's the neat thing about where these engines have gotten to, because they are so realistic now as far as the assets they can have in there and the real-time rendering prowess. You're seeing it used in cinematography.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, like the first show I saw about that used it was The Mandalorian. Like, pause right there. Yeah, so instead of having to make these crazy detailed sets, it is literally just big curved screens, and they're running inside the game engine. So basically, wherever the camera is programmed to move, it's moving inside the game engine, so you get the perfect 3D perspective at all times, and you can't tell that the background's not real. And if they decide, oh, you know what, I don't like the fact that this shot's at daytime, I want it at nighttime, they just go ahead and take the sun in the game engine, just rotate it across the world.
Oh my gosh.
Drop a mountain in the back. They can do whatever they want. I think that is just
That's crazy.
So... And it looks so good. Like when I watched The Mandalorian for the first time, I had no idea that half those sets weren't done either on a practical sound stage or something like that. It was like some obscene percentage of the show was shot this way. I don't remember exactly, but a lot was done in this kind of format, and that's just really, really impressive tech to think about it.
I didn't even realize, but yeah, you can see like the the roof tiles missing up here.
Yeah, it's a fake ceiling and fake walls, and then they splice the seams together in post and stuff like that to make you merry a little bit. But just even looking at it from right there, it looks pretty good.
It looks cool. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really exciting to think about that type of application at this point. And then of course you've then kind of pushed that into the gaming world. Games of that kind of graphical fidelity, which we all know you're not going to see necessarily that fidelity on your Xbox necessarily, because you need a certain level of processing power to get to that level of quality. But the option is there if you have the power, which is really, really neat. And I won't spend a lot of this. I don't know if you have any particular thoughts you want to throw in. I'm just going to run through some of the quick things that I thought were cool about this.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so
I actually have my own questions, so that's the only thing I think I added was a lot of questions because that's what I got.
No, and that's fair. And Unreal's always been good about supplying a lot of stuff to people who pick it up for the first time, like as far as like pre-done assets and like game tutorials and examples. I know in this video they talk about the Lyra multiplayer game, which is really cool. They have an entire multiplayer game with the networking framework set up, and I think they said it runs on mobile, PC, console. It's got all the stuff hooked up and set up to go, and you can just play it.
I really liked how easy it was for them to create this they showed like this step part that they showed. I'm probably close to. Oh, and the lighting was really cool. What they call it? They called it Lumina or something. Lumen.
Lumen.
But yeah, it's kind of cool how like the lights kind of follow this ball orb at night. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's true. Like these engines have gotten so much better doing things like ray tracing and ambient occlusion and stuff like this that you're seeing, where the light picks up on the colors and bounces it around. Like it's really nice to see that, especially in a format that's so easier for designers to hop in and just start messing with. And of course, just because you have this engine with all these tools doesn't mean you're going to end up with a great game, but it definitely remove some barriers, right? Our framework is there. You can kind of build upon, tweak things at your level and start adding to it.
I mean, that basically is one of my questions that I had was, is the creation of video games easier to do than it has ever been with so many assets available, drag and drop features, learning courses that are offered they talked about here, and then like those code snippets make it incredibly easy to just kind of put in codes. They're like, drag and drop codes that you've already typed in.
It's a bit of yes and no. I said this is where my lack of professional development is probably going to show, because I have not touched 5, so I can't say for sure where that's at. And 4, I only dabbled in a little bit. I mean, just from a general answer, I'd say yes, because they're giving you so many things to work with. But depending on the game you want, if the game you want to build does not meet what is currently in this engine, like aesthetically or the assets that, like, this is great. Like, I know they mention that they have all these photorealistic scanned assets brought in that are free, and that's awesome if you're making a game that's trying to go for photorealism. What if you're making a Borderlands style game where you don't want it to look realistic at all?
The cell shadedness.
So I think it really depends. I don't know what's all in this engine. I know, cell shading is something that's in there, I know. So it just kind of depends on what you need to add and kind of your skill level, what your game design
and maybe it still just makes it look easy because they're just like editing a couple features here, but like
they're not
the entire foundation of this thing is already there. So.
Now, I will say, because the 2 engines I have probably done the most work on, I've messed around with Unreal 3 a fair amount back in the day, only a little bit of 4, and then I mess around with Unity engine a lot. In my experience, Unity is the easiest one to work with. It doesn't offer nearly as much, but from a coding standpoint, man, it's so easy to hop in there and just start adding code to. Now, Unreal 4 is definitely a lot easier in that regard, but 4, or I just should say Unreal in general, is a much bigger engine. There's a lot more, especially from a coding standpoint, with how things are kind of, stacked and inherited from everything. So you have to really understand how the code is laid out.
So you would say that you would say that there are people that would prefer to use an older version of UE rather than 5?
No, I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that. It's like I can't even say that with a level of certainty because I haven't used 5 in depth. Or even 4 in a lot of depth.
Any game devs that watch this, feel free to let us know. Or like, I'd be fascinated to know if there are aspects of one older version that people like versus. I'm sure that is the case, but
I don't even think it's that people want to use an older version. I'm just saying from my experience, the older versions, from at least a coding standpoint, were more complex as opposed to something like Unity. Unity, at least for me, was really easy to hop in and add stuff to. But maybe that's because I'm bad at game design. I don't know. Unreal offers a lot, though, that Unity at least didn't at the time. Especially this new version. There's just stuff in this that I don't see as a feature in Unity at this point. So it does make it easier in at least a high level if you're not trying to do anything super, super intricate. But if you're still trying to make a super customized game, there's still going to be a lot of barriers and hurdles. But I would say far more less than if you're trying to do this in-house. And that's something you're going to start seeing a lot more of. And that was one of the things I want to mention. You're seeing a lot of companies kind of get persuaded over into dropping their in-house engines for something like Unreal that's super documented. It has a good set of bones to it. Like we know CD Projekt Red is moving away from their in-house engine and moving to Unreal 5.
Monopoly. Monopoly.
I don't think this is a monopoly. I mean, 40% not a monopoly. Yeah, man, I'm trying to even think how to respond to that necessarily because I don't think it's a monopoly.
I just thought it was funny.
Well, I mean, how do I want to say this? You're right. I mean, you never want one corporation having the majority of, all the games out there that they're now dependent on this engine. There's no other competition. Of course, that's a concern. We're not there yet. There's enough big, high-profile games with good, solid engines or alternatives that's not the case. And I know I wasn't, praising Unity a moment ago, but Unity is an amazing engine too. Super flexible, easy to work with. It may not have some of these new bells and whistles that Unreal has right now. It will in the future, and it's really easy to work with. So you're always going to have that competition to something like Unreal. But I think what's really nice is it lets developers who get caught up in the technical side of creation kind of pull away from that now, utilize this tech that's already available, and just make a better game. Like, you could argue that if CD Projekt Red had moved to Unreal for Cyberpunk, you probably wouldn't have had all these issues. Because from my knowledge, granted, I've not played all of Cyberpunk, I've only played a few hours. This game itself was not bad. Like, this narrative was pretty good. Most of the main gameplay components were fine. The issues were technical, and that boils down to engine issues for the most part. Frame rate things, crashes, things of that nature. If they could have used an engine that was a little more proven, like Unreal, they may not have had all those issues. So
that's interesting to bring up.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, it's hard to say, oh, well, they should just use that, because going back, however many years ago when they decided to, start making something like Cyberpunk, they may not have thought they'd run into all these issues with their current engine. They also probably weren't expecting a pandemic to pop up and cause all these headaches for them. So it's probably not fair to say, oh, you should have chosen Unreal, X amount of time ago, and now you're worried about your own.
Do you think it would be smart for other companies to follow suit? Like, I know Bethesda in the past has been dragged through the mud based on some of their engines. You know what I mean? People always have that. Oh, they need to leave whatever engine they have behind. Fallout 3 looked terrible. Fallout 4 looked bad. 76 looked bad.
It depends, and it's easy to look back in hindsight and say, oh, they should have used another engine. But here's the thing: you do give up a little bit when you use someone else's engine. Like something like Unreal, you can customize a lot and do stuff too, but if your game doesn't just naturally fit what that engine is made for, then you may or may not be in a better boat. Like for you, that was the issue I think I was mentioning way back when with Silicon Knights, remember, with 2 Human?
Yes.
Their game that they wanted to make, for whatever reason, they just couldn't get to work well in Unreal. And they blamed the engine all over the board. Like, oh, they kept changing the game on us and updating, blah, 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 blah. In that case, they probably would have been better just making their own engine that they had full control over. They didn't have to worry about weird updates, and they could make an engine that did exactly what they needed to, instead of trying to add the functionality on to Unreal. So that's still going to be the decision you have to make when you're choosing an engine is, does this engine offer the features that I can use for the game I want to make? If not, is it going to be a huge headache for me to add those features? And if so, I might be better making my own. Granted, making your own engine is a huge undertaking, so it's not like you would just sit out of the blue say, I'm just going to make a game engine. But if you already had one in-house, like you're Bethesda and you've got their creation engine, if they feel like, there's enough room that we can adapt and adjust and add the new features, they may still go with that. They have full control over their engine, and that's probably where they want to be at, having that full control. Mm-hmm. They also don't have to license anything over to Unreal or pay them any, revenue streams because they're using their engine to make their game. That's another big component of this I think some people don't think about. They are going to have to pay Unreal to use their engine, and I think it's a certain amount. I could be wrong. I need to look. I don't want to speak out of place here, but
what does Unreal get paid? Like, how does Unreal get paid? Is it from revenue? Is it
it changes, and I don't want to speak out of place here because I don't recall. It used to be under a certain amount of profit. I think it was like a flat rate they would get. I think they might get a lot more if it's a game that sells really, really well. I could be wrong.
Maybe there's stipulations where it's like, well, if your game doesn't do much, we won't take much. But the more, it's like taxes at the end of the year. The more money you make, the more we'll take.
And it could, I said, I don't want to say for sure.
I'm just saying
they have
it
their
could
own
be.
pricing scheme. But that's my point, though. It does cost something to use Unreal. Now, maybe that's worth it too, because you got to think too. If you're going to make an engine, you're spending a lot of cost into development time to make this engine. So what you would pay Unreal might be less than what you'd pay your in-house developers to go ahead and make this engine. So it's a balance there.
Money versus
I mean,
work, pretty much. It sounds like
say it again.
money versus work. It sounds like.
Yeah, and work is money. So I mean,
Yeah.
it all kind of boils down to the same thing, which is cheaper and which is going to give them less headaches. Just overall, I think this looks like a fantastic engine. Unreal has proven themselves to be a leader in this particular aspect of technology and software development. And I think what's really nice to see is, and they mentioned it throughout this video, this is proven. They've already launched this now with Fortnite, which is still one of the world's biggest games. So it can handle massive amounts of people playing it. It's not about it being Fortnite. It's about it being a game that is so flexible that it already has a mobile infrastructure. It's got console. It's got PC. That's the best advertisement they could have for this engine. So thinking you can take that core, the engine that runs that major game, and apply it to your game is super, super appealing. They're showing that scanning process here right now.
Now
Which
that I think about it, I remember
scans.
seeing all the scanning process used when Forza was showing. What engine does Forza 5 use?
It's in-house. I can't remember the name.
Because they were showing all of the same type of stuff during E3. They were showing all of the picture.
What's interesting about this, though, is he says, okay, so they went through the professional scans. They're releasing an app so you as a developer can take your phone and just scan an object.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention to that.
That's what she was showing with that chair or whatnot. They just in their office just scan the chair and bam, they got a high res model to work with, and that's crazy. We're getting to that point. But I don't know. I think it's neat. I think it's definitely you'll start seeing the impacts of this as we start now easing into like our true next generation. Now this engine's really out there. We're gonna see a lot of cool stuff popping up.
Yeah, so I think that means Unreal Engine 5 Game of the Year 2022, right?
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
I don't know. I guess one funny question I had is, will the human race be overtaken by triangles and nanites? Do you think that's
aren't we already? We could be in a simulation. Isn't that whole psychological
red pill, blue pill?
Not even that. Like, what's the odds that we are already a simulation, right? Because if you're thinking about the possibilities of, are we the first sentient being to create AI, or are we like somewhere down the chain of all the AI that's been created? It's more probable that we are created than the creators. I don't know. Was it Neil deGrasse Tyson has a really interesting kind of explanation of that, but. Either way, I'm getting all existential now.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to let them know that we're onto them. But
you disappeared. I can't hear you.
Oh no, I said I don't want to let them know that we're onto them.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not gonna talk about that. But yeah, I guess was there anything else? I'm gonna go back through anything else. Oh, I guess just one other question I had was have you been a fan of any of the previous Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider games? Because the next Tomb Raider game actually was announced at the very end of here. Where was it?
That's like it's the last thing.
Yeah. But yeah, do you like any of those games or?
I haven't played much of them. I started the first new one whenever that came out. I was like, ooh. It's like 2013. It's been
like 2011. Oh, yeah, 2013 probably, about 2012. Because that first PC I got that you built for me, that came with a digital code for the first Tomb Raider game, and I think that was probably like 2013, 2012.
Yep. And I played a handful of hours in that game. I liked it well enough. I think I was just playing something else at the time. I kind of fell off. Tomb Raider has never been like my go-to franchise. I think at that time I was also like starting to get into the Uncharted a little more, so that kind of scratched that itch. So I am not opposed to this. I know those were highly people like those games quite a bit. So
I loved the first one. I really liked the first one, and then for some reason I just fell off the second one. I don't remember what it was, but the first one I really liked. I'm trying to remember my thoughts, but I don't know. I kind of liked its different. I felt like it was a different take on kind of the Lara Croft Tomb Raider stuff. Because to be honest, I didn't have a great experience with some of the original games, so I felt like the newer one was more. I don't know. It just felt more modern, and I don't know. I liked. There was like a wolf section I remember where you were like getting attacked by multiple wolves. I kind of liked it. Kind of got mystical at the end. I don't know. I won't go too far, but I like the first one. Second one, I started it and just didn't get far.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I have no real like strong opinion one way or the other about this. I am not surprised. I'm sure this will be a solid entry. I'm curious, are they continuing, that line of Tomb Raiders? Like this would be like Tomb Raider 4 out of the new kind of direction they went, or will they reboot it again? Will it be something completely different? So I'm
they
kind of
tried
curious.
making that movie.
Oh yeah.
Was it Alicia Vikander? They tried making a movie that didn't do too well.
Did not watch it.
Nope. All right. Well, yeah. The future is bright. The machines are right around the corner. Be afraid.
Hail our robot overlords.
We love you. To our overlords. Hold on. Let me back to the cam. We love you. Be go gentle on us.
Beep beep boop.
Beep 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 boop 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 boop. All right. So let's see. What are we at? An hour 6. So, next I guess we're gonna go into Halo.
Those are the short topics, right? That we just spent an hour on.
Yeah. Well, we went a little bit longer on Borderlands than I thought we would, and our opening lasted like 15 minutes. Sorry, we're going into details not in front of the peoples. But yeah, so we're gonna move on to Halo, the TV series, episodes 2 and 3. Seeing as how we took, or we're going to be a day or two late, me and Phoenix were actually able to watch episode 3 as well. So we'll go into what we thought about those two. Let me switch overs. Alright, so I'll switch back. Well, Phoenix, I guess I wasn't crazy about episode 2. You said you liked it more than me, correct?
Yes. Do you want me to explain why yet, or do you want to kind of go off? What are your feelings on it? Since you kind of said that you
on episode 2 or 3, how do we want to approach this? Just talk about 2 first.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just do a blanket statement. I don't love where the show is going, so I'm just going to say that it's still in the same kind of weird off direction I felt like was happening in the first episode. There's some things I have appreciated about what they're trying, but overall, I'm not a big fan.
Well, so, kind of the whole. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we can focus still on episode. I just kind of want to throw that out there, so you knew going into it where I stood on this.
I'm a bit more open. I'm a bit more open with where they're going. Like, to be honest, like I don't mind them kind of venturing off and doing different things with the plot and certain things. I think more my sole main issue has been so far with Chief. Everything else, I'm okay with them rotating and trying different things, but definitely what they've done with Chief for me has been kind of But yeah, I guess episode 2, just kind of what I had is that episode, in my opinion, kind of tackled with the idea of training versus programming, or thinking, or Chief thinking for himself, which is I don't know, something. Who said that to him? I don't even remember. Because I watched episode 2, it feels like so long ago. But yeah,
talking about his buddy on the space station. Was it Soren? Was that?
Soren is the one that brought that up to him. Which, because I think that ended up leading into Soren was trying to get him to remove his. He has some sort of emotional tracker, which they delve deeper into in episode 3. Because I guess Soren removed that either before he fled or after he fled. I don't remember.
Right.
Gosh, all of a sudden my cough came back. But yeah, my big problem with episode 2 is like, and even into episode 3 is still like my biggest problem is Chief is still like helmetless throughout like 90% of these episodes. It's for me, it clearly shows that the showrunners are just not confident that they can convey like any sort of emotion on Chief, without showing his face, which it's like that. That was just such a staple with the games. It's like Chief's helmet is so iconic, but he's never wearing the helmet. I'm just like, for me, I'm like tired of seeing this guy's face. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think maybe my rationale is like touching base on kind of what you're saying, but it's maybe a little more focused in some areas. Like, So yes, I don't love that his helmet's off the whole time, and I feel like they're using that kind of stripping him down from that standpoint to make him seem more human, more relatable. But I think what's so weird and what I think made episode 2 work a little bit, and had nothing to do with the fact that he didn't have a helmet on or any of that. I think the best way they could have humanized Chief and given him more of like some stakes and personality is just show how he interacts with people like Soren, his Spartan crew that he kind of grew up with, and the people around him, the other soldiers and stuff. And I actually really liked how they gave that little bit of backstory with him and Soren, him letting him go but still being kind of very like much for the UNSC and all of that, and then kind of their back and forth and relationship on the space station. Like, I liked that. Here's the thing, though. They didn't need to have that helmetless. Like, I think that could have worked in the armor the entire time if he needed to. So, I don't know. I feel like they're using that stripped-down armor look just to make him more personable, when really they should be leaning into these character moments. Like, that's the best way to do it.
I guess.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to throw in something I realized partly into episode 3 is like I realized like all of my least favorite sections are sections that involve the Quan character, and I was thinking while I was watching it, what exactly is her and her side plot bringing to the show? Like, can you think of like any positive? Like, it feels like she's just like a barrier. She's like a wall in between. Like, every time I see her, I get like I'm just like, I'm more interested in what's going on with the Halsey, the chief, and all of that UNSC stuff. And then
I'm not into her story.
Well, like, what's the point though? Like, what is the point of her plot? Like, I could care.
I don't know. The only thing I can think of, because they tried really hard. That was a whole, kind of point in episode 1, was that Chief wanted to save this girl. So he's got some kind of emotional stake tied to this girl. And I have a feeling it's going to tie back to that at some point. He's going to find out she's in trouble, and he's going to have to come and rescue her. And it's going to be some big, humanizing character moment for Chief.
But once that's conveyed that he has emotions and is a person fighting with his programming, like, okay, then what's the point once you got that across that he's fighting amongst himself,
Oh, and there may not be a bigger point than that, which in and of itself is not terrible. I just think right now that's probably the least interesting part of where they're going with this. And I don't know, I'm trying to think if this is the right time you can kind of throw it in, because it might be a little off sidetrack a little bit. But I mean, I get once again, they're humanizing Chief, and maybe her character is one facet of doing it, but I do not like the way they're taking Chief from like an emotional standpoint. Like, was it end of chapter 2 how he just gets straight up angry with that one guy, like slams him against the wall? Like, yeah, I don't see Chief doing that. And I guess I'm trying to separate. Okay, this is not the Chief I know from the games. And I guess I keep holding out that, okay, he's going to build to that. Like, he's going to end up being that Chief at some point. And I don't think that's going to happen at this point. Like, I'm trying to understand even like where this story is taking place in the greater like timeline of the Halo canon. Like, it's clearly before the fall of Reach, but
I don't think they're trying to fit it in the canon. I think they're
they're going to go through and they're going to be pulling from all the different stories. I'm not sure they're trying to fit it into the canon, but they're going to lead through them finding the Halo and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Like, I keep hoping that when they get to that point where like the games have caught up with this, that we'll start seeing some semblance of the Chief that we know from the games on the screen. And I'm seeing less and less of that happening. Because I feel like at this point, if there was even a chance of that happening and us getting that Chief, he should already be that Chief by now. It's some facet. And I think he's veering more and more away from that. I like the idea of him exploring the programming nature of what's going on, but I don't like how emotional they're letting him get. And maybe that's me not being open enough to it, but the Chief that I've seen and known throughout the games is not that he doesn't have emotion, but he doesn't get emotional, if that makes sense. Like, he doesn't go off the handle, or he shows moments of frustration, but the way they made this guy act during parts, just how upset he gets and how like weird he gets and like behaves with some of the other actors, I'm like, that's not Chief. That's some guy. That's not Chief to me. I don't know. I'm still taking a hard issue with that.
I'm also kind of just going back to what we were saying about the helmet thing. I don't know if you saw my text from earlier, but I actually kind of did some digging, And apparently, I mean, the reasoning I'm guessing for why he's so helmetless is I ended up looking up this actor whose name is Pablo Schreiber. I actually didn't even know it, but I looked it up. He's actually Liev Schreiber's brother. I don't know if you know that actor.
Yeah.
He's his brother, and he apparently, it's in very early talks, but I think there's rumors that he's in talks to actually play the next Wolverine in the Marvel.
Oh man, I hope not. And not that I don't like this guy. Man, do you know why I would have an issue with that?
Why I mentioned why they might be happening is because his brother played what's his name? Sabretooth. Yeah, his brother played Sabretooth in a Wolverine movie. So I'm wondering if his brother's ties to Marvel are helping him, kind of get in good with Marvel. But go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I guess what I'm kind of asking, like, oh man, I know I'm going to come across like, I don't know, all like comic book authoritarian here, but it's not that I don't mind them changing characters a little bit and like adapting, like they've changed, like the Wolverine we have right now with Hugh Jackman is not the exact same Wolverine from the comics, and I'm okay with that. But there's always a few features or aspects about a character that I feel like should be there, and sometimes it is like a physicality thing or a certain.
You can talk about height. Because
yes.
this guy's 6'5". This guy's 6'5", and Wolverine's supposed to be like 5'8" or 5'6".
Exactly, and like, and Hugh Jackman's not the shortest guy.
I thought you were gonna go there too.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Like, if you kind of read where I was going with this, I have no issue with the guy's acting. I think he's actually. Here's the thing: I don't like his chief. I don't think that's his fault, though. I think he is acting well.
He's a huge guy. I was actually. Oh, sorry, cutting you off again. Go ahead.
No, you're right. He is a huge guy. I was trying to compare him in the show, like when he was out of his armor, and he was still a giant.
When he's walking in episode 3, when he's walking amongst all the civilians, I was like, he must be wearing some huge shoes. And then I looked it up, and it says 6'5", and I'm like, oh no, he's like legitimately taller than everyone else.
Which I think is actually one of the best casting aspects of the decision that they could have made. Like, Chief should be a giant. I mean, he is in all the game. So,
but Wolverine should not be.
Yeah, that is so wrong for Wolverine. And I can argue him being not like super tiny. Like, he could be like an average sized dude. Like Hugh Jackman, like, what is he, like? Shy of 6 foot or right at 6 foot or something?
He's not a short guy, not a tall man. He's maybe like 5'10", 5'11", I think.
Yeah, relatively average. He's not the, like 5'2" or something that Wolverine is, but that was okay. I could work with that. I cannot see this guy being Wolverine and fitting that at all.
Hugh was such a perfect fit from the start. Even if he was 6'4", it would have been like, okay, this guy's Wolverine. You know what I mean? I just think he was.
I would have taken issue if he would have been 6'4". I said that to me, and maybe I am just being like, too by the book with the comics. I don't know, and I'm not even a huge comic guy. But
come on, Bob.
Here's the thing: there's always a few aspects to a character that. Need to be there. I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong. And if someone wants to argue me in the comments, I mean, I can certainly probably be persuaded. But I have just a strong inclination towards like something like that is so just what's the word? It's like iconography about this guy. Like, you think of Wolverine, he's short, tiny, just angry guy.
Are you saying he's overcompensating? You saying Wolverine's overcompensating for his height?
No, but either way, I know I'm going off on side.
Yeah.
But that's why I wouldn't like him as Wolverine, and that's, I know. And you might be right. Maybe that is why they're giving him so much face time. They're trying to, test him out, like the waters a little bit to see if,
once again,
like stuff like that.
I don't mean to be, theory man McGee, but once again, his brother has worked on a Marvel movie. His brother has ties to Marvel, and more specifically, the Fox area, who I think is, I don't know what Disney has done with the Fox side or I don't know what Disney has done with the Fox side of the Wolverine. I don't know if they brought those people over or if they let them go, you know what I mean? But I know at least his brother probably still has ties in with the X-Men stuff, so
I would imagine nothing is off the table with that. Like, the way that Marvel is mixing in characters from other franchise, like the Sony franchises, and even like WandaVision, they brought in, the different Quicksilvers and stuff. So, I mean, they're bringing in whoever, they don't care. So,
and once again, that stuff I was bringing up is all rumors. Like, that is not set in stone. I don't believe anything's been signed. They just said he was in talks, which means anything could happen from there.
Yeah. Well, either way, I put on the record, I don't want this guy to be Wolverine. But anyways, where were we at as far as the Halo thing? I'm trying to think what else I specifically don't like about where they're going with this.
I just wanted to bring up that I dislike how like villain-esque the UNSC is in this so far.
Well,
Like the UNSC is like really bad. Like,
well, okay, so I mean, they're definitely playing into that. Don't get me wrong.
I
And
mean, I guess it
once
could
again,
just be
not
political stuff, but
I'm not the biggest Halo lore buff guy, but I feel like that's somewhat accurate. Like, the
Halsey's
UNSC
that way. But is the entirety of UNSC?
I think, well, it depends. Here's the thing with a lot of these, military focused kind of, stories, it's perspective based, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
depending what side of the conflict you're on, it's going to villainize the other side of it. So I believe the whole rebellion aspect of what they're kind of showing in this show is not unique to the show. I'm pretty sure that was points inside the book. Like, there were these rebellions and whatnot. And I think some of the stuff that the UNSC did was kind of messed up because once again it's like military authoritative kind of control they were trying to push on these rebellious colonies. And I could be wrong. Once again, if you've read more Halo books than me, you can certainly add your input here, and I could be off base, but I don't mind that. I think the UNSC doesn't really come across as feeling like a heroic entity until they have to, because they have to fight against the Covenant. So maybe that's the perspective change they're taking. I don't mind that. I don't mind Halsey even feeling a little more evil, if you will. Like, I don't think she was necessarily like that in the games and books, but I don't know. I don't know enough to, I think, hold a firm stance one way or the other on that. I don't really love the mommy dynamic that they're setting her up with Chief. Like,
Well, what I was gonna say, since you bring that up, what I think they're doing is they're using, or I'll switch back. I think what they're doing is they're using that mommy dynamic. I think they're using that to kind of combat, or they're using that to kind of. I'm trying to think of how to say it. They're using that against the actual dynamic she has with her actual daughter in Miranda. So I think they're trying to play with like she doesn't have any liking or care for her actual daughter family, but she cares more for her like fake.
does she really? Like, here's the thing: they're very much proving Halsey to be a manipulative character.
That's true.
And like,
That's true.
what she's doing with John, she doesn't. I mean, the whole point is she doesn't care about John. I mean, she probably
He's an
has
experiment to her. Yeah.
Yeah, she has an affinity towards him, but she's playing whatever side is going to, push her endeavors and her interests further. Like, she cares about the Cortana project going, so she's kind of playing John and Cortana against each other a little bit. And I think what I don't like about that, beyond just the fact that it's kind of, a weird relationship, and it makes John definitely more emotional in that aspect. It doesn't strengthen the Chief character to me. Like, I'm trying to think how that storyline is going to play out, where I'm going to be like, Chief is a better character in the end. Like, he feels weak in comparison right now just because he's so underneath Halsey's thumb, right? He's very much like, whatever you say, Halsey, I'll do that.
Shoot, even in this last episode, when in episode 3 at the end, when I'm like, oh shoot, Halo and Halo. I keep saying Chief and Cortana are about to go on this mission. It's like, nope, Halsey's bringing her and her assistant on this mission. I'm like, oh come on. Like, I would have been cool just to see Chief and Cortana go off on their own thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, and I agree. Like, I don't know. It's weakening Chief's character, and maybe they're going to come around. It's going to be this big turn, and Chief's going to have to, stand up because he finds out what they did to him and kidnapped him as a kid and all this other stuff, and stands up against
to his
Halsey.
mommy.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to make me feel better about Chief's character at the end. Like, I just can't see a good way for that playing out without just completely villainizing Halsey. Maybe that's the direction they're going. They're just making her straight up the bad guy at this point, which I don't think is the right interpretation. At least not, once again, from my understanding of the lore. Like, yeah, she was always someone who was very focused on the project and the work. Maybe, definitely took her self-interest a little too far, but I always thought there was at least a little bit of air of respect about Halsey, like, in the games that I refer to. Like, Chief didn't think she was, like, just straight up some evil mommy figure. At least that's not, once again, the perspective that the game's portrayed, unless I missed something. I mean, I could have. So I don't know. I don't feel like this is helping Chief's character much. It is humanizing him, I suppose, but it is not strengthening him back up to be the Chief and the hero that I've known throughout these games. And maybe that's not what they want. I mean, I know one of the big just trends in general nowadays is to break down and deconstruct your heroes. And you know what? I guess I get the point of that in some cases, but not for this. Like, Halo at its core is about Master Chief. I mean, you could argue it's this world.
Halo's not Mass Effect where you can play both sides, the Paragon and Hero. Like Halo is
Halo's even going Mass Effect-y with this show, if that makes sense. Like the political aspect of it. Like I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it a little much. Like some of the music cues even feel Mass Effect-y to me. I almost feel like they wanted to make a Mass Effect show.
Oh, that's true. There was in 3. There was a sting. It's funny you mentioned that. There was a sting I remember in a scene where it was like dun 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 dun, like very massive.
Like the space station they were on, visiting Core, and maybe I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably just reading into stuff.
And they made the Mass Effect reference. No, they could be taking cues from multiple things.
Yeah, which I don't know. I just feel like there's a core of what Halo should be. There's a core of what any story should be. Like no matter what the franchise or IP is. And I'm not against adaptations. Some of my favorite, movies and shows are adaptations of the source material. But at their core, they stay true to what that IP or franchise is about, whether it be the character or it be the world or whatever it may be. And I feel like this show doesn't have that. They have their own story they want to tell. They don't care about telling the story of Master Chief that we know. And I mean, that's fine, I guess, but that's not Halo. This is some other sci-fi show they want to go ahead and show with the Halo coat of paint on it. They've taken just about everything about Halo that you'd be like, oh, I know that thing, or oh, I recognize that thing. And they're like, okay, here it is, but let's change it. They haven't given you any one thing from the game or from the story. And just be like, here is Cortana, the way you know and love her. Nope, we made Cortana a life-size person. Oh, here's Chief, the way you know him. Except we're going to rip his helmet off. Like, give me something. Throw me a bone here, I guess.
Since you brought up Cortana, I'm going to go ahead and push us into like more specific talk in Episode 3. Because I feel like Episode 3, in my opinion, was far more entertaining than 2. And
I go the other way.
Really? Well, I will say it has a horrible beginning with I specifically put it on my notes. The whole scene with the children kissing, I was like, this is how you're starting an episode? I was just like kind of oh sorry. I was kind of
No, go ahead. I'm just thinking out loud.
I was just kind of thrown off by that. Like it felt uncomfortable. It was just like, why is
it did feel uncomfortable, I will say that. Like, I think I get it, and it does make me see how this character would be so bought into the Covenant. Like, she was living on this desolate place, she had this one connection to this one, boy she liked or whatever, and then these human
I just felt like you didn't need that specific event happening to convey that.
I mean, honestly, I was less surprised about the event, just how brutal it was. And that's something this show surprises me with. Like, the way the whole show opened up with just, people getting just blasted. And then you see this kid just getting beaten. I'm like, oh, like...
It was a terrible start to that episode, I thought.
I guess here's the thing. I don't want to see that in a Halo TV show. I don't know. Maybe I'm being soft on it. I don't know. And Halo is, not a non-violent,
Why does the UNSC have to be so brutal, though? Like, dude, it's an entire series based on fighting human annihilation from alien races. It's like, why do the humans have to be crappy too?
Well, because I don't mind that at this point in the story. I don't mind the UNSC is painted a little villainously, because I said that I think to a certain extent is somewhat more accurate.
I just mean though, why does every human colony have to be like horrible?
Yeah, well, granted, we've seen what two colonies, so we haven't seen everything. I don't know. I'm not trying to downplay your point. I think you're right in a certain sense. It is very bleak, and they're trying their best to paint the UNSC as just these evil monger people. But
it's a very heroic show that's supposed to show like.
Well, I think here's my thing: is I don't mind it all being so bleak, but then I think that really kind of pushes the fact that Chief needs to be
a paragon of virtue or something.
And because he is so broken down right now and so unsure of himself, it seems like who am I rooting for in this? Like, I'm not sure where Chief is going with this. Like, he's kind of weird. He's not the Chief I know. He's some other character. And everybody else in the show has either their own motives they're pursuing, or they're the Covenant, who are just straight up bad in this. Which I wonder if they're going to paint the Covenant as more
heroes,
favorable in the end. Which I don't know. This show could do anything at this point. It's just a weird tone. I don't mind the UNSC being kind of bad, but they're going just all in on the brutality, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that definitely made me, maybe it's because I'm a parent, just watching a kid get beat like that really kind of
Yeah,
hit
I
me the wrong
agree.
way.
I just didn't. I don't have a kid, and I was kind of like, dude, this is dumb. Why is this here? But there's
Yeah.
a couple other things that I just thought were weird. Like they had to throw in the odd, creepy scientist guy trying to kiss the Halsey clone when she's on the table, and I was like,
Yeah.
why is? It's like what? Why is this here? So the guy
This
has an
show's going for some shock factor,
the
man.
guy
Like, I
has
know
an
you.
affinity for Halsey. I'm guessing is what they're saying, and it's just like.
Yeah, he's got some like probably some other mommy issues going on
And then
here.
there's the eyeball
Um,
stab part, which that was that I didn't like seeing, but at least that's like a sci-fi thing. They're trying to get across how Cortana was created, how this AI has been developed. Okay, that's fine. That was the one thing where I'm like, ill, but I get it.
yeah, no, I'm with you there. I thought that was a little unnecessary. I mean, maybe they're gonna do something really weird with this, scientist assistant character in the future, but it was unnecessary to me right now.
And then I guess I kind of wanted to just say about Cortana. I liked Cortana. I mean, yeah, it's weird she's human size, but it's like I don't know. I'm okay with that. She's an AI. Maybe she can change her size and whatnot. I just at least like that the voice actor is there. That's the CGI is not great. Just, granted, I'll say there is a bit of like what's the phrase? Was it uncanny
Candy Valley.
valley?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she looked odd.
there is that, but it's like I'm willing to put up with not looking great if you can get the voice actor there. I still think Steve Downes should have been brought back on, but I don't know the specifics. But yeah, I mean, so you said you weren't crazy about this Cortana?
Yeah, and so that's actually one of the reasons. Like, I want to like that it's her voice, but it's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, they offer you a part of what you want. Like, okay, oh, you want to hear Cortana's voice? Here's her voice. Let's change almost everything else about her.
It just sounds like since you think they're ruining her, you just don't even want the original voice actor just because they're ruining it already.
It feels like a bait and switch,
Yeah.
like just like with Chief. Like, okay, so Chief's armor looked great. Like when you first see Chief fighting on the first part of the first episode, you're like, yeah, okay, there's Chief, that's cool.
And then
like,
helmet off.
helmet off, voice is weird, and just like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not Chief. And I feel like I'm getting the same thing. Like, oh, here's Cortana's voice. You know Cortana's voice. Yeah, watch her be all into Cortana. And then it's like, okay, but she's not going to look the same. She's not going to act the same. Now, once again, I don't know exactly how Cortana was at her initiation, like when she was created. So maybe this is how she was in the book.
You can call me a dumb Halo sucker, but that's something that's just good enough. Maybe it'll keep me around to finish this season. I love her voice. Her voice is just so like.
And
so
I do
cool.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the voice actress is definitely pulling from her experience in the games to give you those inflections. But I think
She's
it's
witty,
even odder.
witty as always, and super sharp. And she's like, kind of has a, she's. You can.
Doesn't it feel odd to hear her now talking to not the regular Master
It
Chief
does.
voice?
It does.
Like, it just everything about it feels so off to me. Maybe it's just in my head and I can't get past it. And if so, I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine.
really hard for me. And then you add the kind of awkward CG, the life size thing. I don't know if that's what I don't like. Like I could probably get past that.
That I can understand. Like once again, she's a AI artificial.
So, and okay, I could be very wrong on this because I'm kind of building this on my passive understanding of how Cortana came about in the games. But Cortana, I mean, I know she was one of the first AIs, but for one, she wasn't just embedded into Chief's brain. Like, she was on a little disc that you plugged into the helmet.
Yes.
So that was a separate interaction. So they're definitely trying to connect them in a way that is different.
I think
where
it's
she
the
has a
same because I
control
mean,
over him.
I thought Halsey was holding like a disc-looking thing, but then yeah, they also showed her putting some chip in his brain. So I don't know which it is because they showed Halsey holding a disc.
I think it might be how like it was transferred initially, or like she's tapped into a system. But they clearly showed him like or them injecting something. Maybe it's just a transmitter. I don't know, but I thought that was a little weird.
I did think that scene was super interesting though, with Halsey talking to her clone, with her clone kind of knowing everything about her and kind of like pressing her buttons, because her clone is her. You know what I mean? I did think that was interesting.
Now, here's something, and this once again might just be my lacking of Halo knowledge, but the whole point is there's not just Cortana. There's other AIs like her in the lore, right? It's not just her.
There's
And the whole
multiples,
point,
yeah, I believe.
yeah, and the whole point is that you're not supposed to have these AIs, in service for so long. They go, was it rampant or whatever they say?
Rampant, yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
Or rampant,
and that was
rampancy, I think.
rampancy, and that was like the whole point of where Halo went and starting like Halo 4 was Cortana going crazy, and I feel like that's not something that's been brought up or is on the table, and it's something that maybe it's because she's the first one, but I feel like I don't know. I don't know this enough from the lore, but were there other AIs or in the actual lore of the game? Should there have already been other AIs and they knew about this rampancy thing, like when they created her, like, or is she just that old and is pre that? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's messed with my.
I do think in Halo 4, like, that was something that they already knew about. Like, I do think...
I guess that's my thing. Like, it acted like that is knowledge that they already knew about. Like, I don't remember if Cortana was the first AI like this, or if there were other AIs that already had this rampancy thing, and that should be impacting this.
Or maybe Halsey just doesn't care. I mean, Halsey's just, oh, well, we'll do something. Maybe she's just like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Maybe.
Although that is a scary thing to think about, because, I mean, you can see what a rampant AI has done in those games. So
I guess just with the way they're treating this story as it is, it makes me think it's not just something that they'll get to later. It's not something they want to include, and I think that's going to be a weird, once again, another really weird missing component of these characters. And maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit because it might be early on and they don't have that knowledge yet, but I'm trying to place where this is happening in Chief's story from the games, and maybe I shouldn't be doing that, but this has got to be relatively close to the Fall of Reach, right? And if that's the case,
so.
I mean, the Fall of Reach ends, like, once again, going off the game, with Chief blasting off it was Pillar of Autumn, right? Or it was one of the ships. He blasts off at the very end.
You're going to have better memory than me, probably.
Guess I know that was the whole point of Reach, is your team at the very end loads up Chief and blasts him off. You get him off, and then that starts right into Halo 1. So I guess my point is, at the point of Halo 1, that Cortana storyline of her going rampant and whatnot, that information was already known. Like, it had to been, because I think it was already kind of laid out in that game, or maybe it was Halo 2. Cortana wasn't the only AI. I mean, these were other things, like seeds are already planted at that point. So if this show is taking place just before the Fall of Reach, that should be knowledge that is known. You see what I'm saying? So, like, they can't go into, like, where Halo 1 would be and have that knowledge at this point. I don't know. And maybe I'm really just nitpicking here, but something about that just rubbed me the wrong way.
Like I said, maybe they're just flying by the seat of their pants. Who knows?
I think that's it. And maybe it rubs me wrong because that's such a core story component of where Halo has been in the past, like, 4 games, is Cortana going crazy.
Is rampancy even a thing in this?
Well, that's why I'm asking. I don't know. But I feel like that's with the way they're creating Cortana and the way they're bringing her up, it's like she's the very first AI of her type.
It just feels like maybe they didn't bring it up so that if they get multiple seasons, maybe they'll be like, okay, now we can bring it up,
Maybe, and then it's gonna be a whole thing if they discover the rampancy, and I just don't know if I like that, because part of the whole interesting thing about Cortana is she knew it was gonna happen, and, like, at the end it was her being like, "Let me go, John," and, like, he's like, "No," it was then him. That's what humanized Chief. I think in those movies was the games was his relationship with Cortana and not wanting to give her up. And that's where the rampancy thing was kind of, bittersweet in the whole process, was he knew she was basically dying and going crazy, and he's like, no, I'm still going to try to save her and hold on to her. And I feel like if that seed isn't planted here in the show pretty soon, you're going to lose what I think is one of the more humanizing characteristics or things they've done with Chief's story arc throughout all the games. I don't know. It just feels like missed potential. Really. And I would say, I'll get off the topic. I'm ranting now, and I'm probably just digging down a hole I shouldn't be.
Sorry, calm down. You get off your chest. I'm here for you.
I think I'm just sad because there are things I want to like about this show. I'm really trying. But every little thing they do it just comes with a caveat or multiple caveats, and I'm just like pulled out of it every time. Like, there is no one thing they have done in this show that I'm like, yep, that is Halo. Everything comes with an asterisk next to it, and that just, it's bothering me.
And there was another thing I thought about it before I read online, but like there was a scene where they were talking about in episode 3 where they were talking about this plague that took over Chief's original home planet and killed all of his people. Yeah. And the very first thing I thought was, are they referring to the flood? Because they said they quarantined that entire planet. So I don't
maybe. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that's where they're going, because it feels like this showrunner or whoever the writers are just taking all these random Halo story threads and fitting them in wherever they want.
Because once you go flood, man, that's like...
Once you go flood, there's no going...
unflood.
Unflood.
I mean, the flood is like a big deal. Like, the flood is like...
And the whole point is that it was unleashed on the ring. Like, and wasn't they, like, sealed off on the ring by the Forerunners or something like that? Like,
yeah.
Or was... So, I don't know.
No, wasn't the ring created to eliminate the flood?
Yeah.
Because the ring is like a weapon.
I don't know. I just feel like they are ruining what is good Halo lore. Like, it's one thing if, like, a game doesn't come with good lore, and it's pretty much a clean slate. You can just do whatever you want to with it and tweak things, and nobody's going to care. But Halo, at its core, has pretty well thought out lore, and these showrunners just like, whatever.
I agree with you. Again, I think I brought this phrase up already, but it does kind of feel like they're flying by the seat of their pants. They're just like, all right,
this is a lot of respect to the source material.
This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. Maybe we'll throw this in, but I guess just a couple other things real quick. I want to blast through to get through the rest of this. But one other thing that bothered me is how exactly does this blonde chick have so much knowledge on human tech and how to troubleshoot and how to use it when she spent her whole life amongst the Covenant, her whole like teenage and adult life amongst the Covenant? She just like
I don't know.
Knows how to use the data pad. She knows how to she's like going in and redoing the wires like what was her name in The Force Awakens?
Rey.
Rey. She's like knows more than Harrison Ford. She knows more about the ship. Yeah, it's like how exactly does this chick know? I don't know.
They could explain it away, being like, Covenant, brought wreckage from UNSC, destroyed whatever. And I don't know how they're going to explain it away.
She's like a perfect villain right now. She knows everything about the UNC. She knows everything about Covenant. She's a blessed one. Like, jeez.
I mean, maybe there's more to the story. We'll find out. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about her character, because it is just this is so different than the games. Like,
and all she has is a book. She has one human book talking about kissing. Like, what does that have to do? I don't know. That's her whole human knowledge base. I don't know.
Who does she practice the kissing with? The Covenant? The grunts?
Her hand. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. She is just this big question mark that I don't even know if I should dislike or not like. I probably would like her as an addition.
There's rumors that she's Chief's sister or something.
Oh man, I hope it's not something stupid like that.
That would be terrible. I agree.
There's that's what I'll say. I don't mind additions and adaptations to lore. Like, if there was something cool they were doing with this character, maybe I'd be like, yeah, that's all right. Granted, it's already coming from a weird spot, but because everything else is already so weird, it's just one more weird thing thrown into the show. I'm like, well, whatever. They're clearly not making a Halo show. They're making whatever sci-fi show they want, just throwing in whatever kitchen sink is lying around. So I don't know. I don't know.
I just have one more thing I'll throw in that we can move on. Can we both agree that that stupid energy sword fingernail thing was by far the dumbest thing introduced to the show so far? What in the world was that? Like,
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that either. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, what does she do if she goes to pick her nose and it accidentally goes off? Like what?
Give herself her own lobotomy. I don't know. That didn't bother me. Like, I think it bothered you, but I think at that point in the show, I was just like, whatever. I think that's kind of where I'm getting with the show now. I'm getting past the angry point. I think I was in denial. Then I was angry.
I mean, seeing the chief butt is one thing, but to me, the fingernail thing was like, what is this? Why is this here?
How do you feel about the nudity? Like, has that done anything for you? Does that make this show better or worse for you?
Does seeing Chief's butt do anything for me? At least the chief butt thing, at least they made that fit with, because he had to take out that chip. I mean, at least that is just like...
He could have had his his boxers on or
But-
something.
but
Like
the
he didn't
scene-
cut that low.
But the scene with the blonde chick seeing her side boob, like that was unnecessary. She was just
Yeah.
she just decided to change in a room. Like I don't know. The chief one at least
I
is,
agree.
and at least that was mildly interesting because Cortana shows up and it's like, oh, is Cortana, is she trying to take a peek? What's going on here? You know what I mean?
I didn't go that direction, but no, I am not for it. I don't think it's worth it. I mean, the show has very clearly shown that they want to go for the shocking moments, so I'm not surprised they went that route, but it doesn't add anything to me. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I just wanted to rag on the fingernail thing. It was just, to me, beyond stupid, and I felt dumber for having seen that. I don't know.
Did you like the hunter scene?
I actually didn't realize it, but I didn't realize that the hunters were made of worms. I don't know why I never clicked with me. Like, I had to look it up. I'm like, where are these worms coming from? And then it showed a picture and like, yeah, the hunters' bodies are actually worms. I was like, what?
It's actually, I mean, I knew that, but I never really thought about it. I'm more surprised you actually don't see more like hunter worm,
In the games?
gameplay. Yeah, because like that'd be kind of weird. I mean, I guess because the flood kind of served maybe that point a little bit.
It was
but-
cool. I liked the little like horror. It was almost like a mild horror scene edition. I thought it was neat.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool in a game if you're about to go to a hunter and then just like kind of like dispersed across the room and you had to like take it down. It'd be neat.
I just
So
never
I think
noticed
that
that.
was one of the cooler moments. But
yeah, so once again, I'm mildly interested to keep going on. I will, whether Phoenix is able to continue on with the episodes or not. If he keeps watching the episodes, we'll keep talking about the episodes. But
I feel like I have to now. I've invested too much of my time to back
hey,
out.
once again, that highlight
Stopped after episode 1.
that highlight video for episode 1 is one of my best performing videos. So
Woo woo.
yeah.
I don't know. Like I really am not optimistic that this show is ever going to win me back. Like I don't know what it could even do at this point to like turn favorably in my opinion. But I've invested this much time. I'm sure the show's not going to be that long. It's probably going to be less than 10 episodes, I would imagine. So I'll stick it out.
Well, yeah, guys, I guess we've done about everything. I did have one more topic that I was going to throw in, but me and Phoenix kind of chit-chatted, and I think we're going to save that for next week. There was also one additional topic I had, but I think we're going to push that one off for next week as well. Should I tell them which one that was? I told you that I pulled that one out.
I've already forgotten. Do we want to talk about that now? You talk about the Ezra.
No, I just
Miller
mean
thing.
I'm gonna talk. We may talk about that one next week.
Well, what is there to talk about, man? Like,
Do you want to mention it here? We can talk about it for just a minute.
yeah, I mean, do you feel like? I mean, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, I don't feel
Dude.
like I don't have a huge amount, but
This is so cool. We're throwing a topic in mid recording.
it's so cool, it's so spontaneous, guys.
I
Wow,
know,
it's
I
getting
know.
crazy over here. Whoa.
Woo! Yeah, if you guys didn't know,
Hey, turn on ChazmaN. It's not that crazy.
oh, you see my chief butt.
Side boob.
Side boob, yeah. If you guys didn't know, this is really weird. I'm kind of glad we're going to talk about it here, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But apparently there's this big ordeal with Ezra Miller. If you don't know, he's the actor for The Flash, who has been in the last few DC movies, and he also has his own movie coming up, the one with Michael Keaton. He also was in the what are the Harry Potters? Oh, I always forget the name of those movies.
The
Fantastic Beasts. He was in those movies, and apparently over this last weekend, he had he was, I guess, vacationing in Hawaii, and he had some huge blow up with at a karaoke bar. I'm doing all this off the top of my head. I have no notes. He had some huge blow up at a karaoke bar. Took the mic from a lady, threatened her, and then threatened the couple he was staying with, and threatened to kill them and their entire family. Did a couple other things, and apparently got arrested. It was a huge deal because apparently Warner Brothers actually had an entire meeting amongst themselves where they have announced that they're going to halt all. I mean, obviously they're going to halt all future projects associated with him. And I'm assuming that's not just Warner Brothers. He's probably going to get the Will Smith treatment, maybe. But yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of sad to see something happen just because one person's kind of a d-bag. You know, like imagine all the people that are working on these projects, and just to have it all kind of thrown away because one person can't has problems of some sort. You know, whether
Yeah, I think
that.
that's the real tragedy here. Like, you gotta think of all the, I mean, jobs that are, I mean, I won't say being lost. Like, I'm sure these people move on to other
Hmm.
positions, but people have probably put a lot of work into future projects that would have had Miller as, the lead in it, and now that's probably just going to be dropped. Like, I don't see this guy's career bouncing back. 'Cause he wasn't a big enough star, I think, to
No, oh no,
keep
you're
around
right.
anyway.
It's really sad. Like, there's so many people probably working on the DC stuff. There's so many people working on. I guess the other series is kind of done, so whatever. But yeah, like you said, I'm sure
They
there's
were,
other stuff that was probably planned with him involved. So you got to feel for
they were
people.
clearly trying to build up Miller's Flash. Like, 'cause people really liked him in the Snyder
I thought
Cut,
he was
so there was
okay.
definitely buzz around him.
Hmm.
And I think people were pretty intrigued about this new Flash movie, probably primarily because of all the Batman cameos. But um, even with that, I mean, I think people were interested in it. I'm sure they had some future plans. So it's a shame. I think we're just seeing more and more just like these Hollywood, A-list actors just going crazy, man. And really just kind of showing themselves for,
I think the
you know,
sad part with the Ezra Miller thing is like, I'm trying to be careful. He very clearly has had troubles. Um, he's had troubles in the past, so it's one of those things where, if you really think about it, it probably should have been kind of seen beforehand. Because I think he also had an event a couple years ago where he like punched a lady a couple times, it, and apparently, I guess right now there. I don't know. I'm not sure if they've said if he has mental issues or if he has substance abuse issues. So I'm not quite sure. Again, I don't want to, put anything upon him that may not be true. But again, it's all very, for me, it's all very disappointing.
It's a shame for whatever reason it is. I mean, if it is something medical related or mental related, that's certainly a bigger issue that should be addressed. But if it was just kind of a bad decision, maybe there was some substance involved. That's
Could be a
probably
combination.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's expected in some cases nowadays. Like, you see it happen more and more often,
It's
but it's
really
still
sad.
just.
He's a really young guy. I think he's only like 29. So it's like, you
Well,
kind
the
of.
thing that he could always bounce back. I mean, I don't know if Hollywood's even like in a place where like something like that you could bounce back from, just because of the way social media works now. But you look at someone like Robert Downey Jr., who, I mean, he went through it back in the '90s. And I
Oh,
think most
that
people did not
infamous
think.
picture of him in court.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people really expected him to bounce back, and now he is one of the highest paid actors I think ever. I
I
mean,
think I
uh,
know. I know what would save Ezra's career. He's got to go over and be some sort of Marvel character. I bet you that.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, if he can take a step back, get whatever help he needs, learn from
Oh, he's
things.
going to be forced to get help because he's not going to
Oh
have any
yeah.
work. I mean, for a
But I
bit.
mean, like, it does have to be a conscious choice too. Like,
Yeah.
if he's just forced into it, it's not going to work for him. But there's a chance he might be able to pull back from this 5, 10 years. Who knows? I don't know if he's got the star power to do that. I mean, when it happens so early in your career and you don't have enough, oomph in your career to kind of pull back on, then maybe this will just be it. He'll fizzle out and he'll go from there. Like, I don't know what else he's really been in
I'll
besides
pull up his
Flash,
IMDb just to see. To be honest, yeah. Up
the
until
Harry
the
Potter
Harry
stuff,
Potter stuff, I had never heard of him.
a lot of smaller movies.
Um, and again, he's a young
Um,
guy, so it's not like he should have
yeah.
a huge list of stuff he's been in. Yeah, I just see like a bunch of DC stuff and the Fantastic Beasts really. Um,
Who knows?
but yeah,
Who knows?
he's a guy who's been going through a lot, so it's I don't know. Again, it's not something I want to step out of bounds on. It's you're talking about mental health, substance abuse. He could be going through a lot that some people don't know about, but I think it's probably best for the company. A company has
Oh
to
yeah,
company
game
has
is.
to look out for itself to an extent, and for in in some instances there is a place where I think a company should look out for itself. Like it, and I do think this is one where you have to kind of just say, okay, Ezra, we're gonna separate ways for a bit.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. No, yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about this. I mean, I think it's a shame that it's gone this direction. For those who are definitely fans of maybe his work or where his work was going, but I get it. I mean, I think the studios made the right move. They couldn't, especially in today's political climate, they couldn't have kept him on, supported him like that, especially right after a situation like with Will Smith going crazy.
Does this help or hurt any of your intrigue for this Flash movie? I don't think it does anything for me.
It doesn't. I mean, I am curious to see the movie.
I'm curious to see Keaton still.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't think it's gonna turn me off to that. So, I mean, I wasn't gonna see this movie because of him anyway. Miller. I mean, I was seeing it for the other stuff wrapped around. Like Affleck, I know gets a send off in it. The Keaton stuff would have been cool. Beyond that, meh. I don't know.
Yeah, same thing. I'm kind of glad we pushed this off because I didn't realize there's really not much to it. I mean, it's just a sad story of somebody. I don't want to say he's not ruining his career. His career's not ruined yet. It's somebody going through some problems who is going to have to get some help, clearly, and we'll see if he's able to bounce back.
I think what's more of a shame is it really just kind of puts more and more nails in the coffin of whatever DC could have done.
Oh, this is a terrible look for DC, the DCU, EU, whatever they call it.
Like, I know they'd already kind of given up on it anyway. They already kind of lost their Batman with Affleck, and now essentially they're going to lose their Flash through this. Like, I don't know. It's a bit of a shame. Just bring back Cavill and do a Man of Steel 2. Just give us that. Let's go there instead.
Heck yeah, dude. That's people have been saying Cavill shouldn't have been one that got rid of it. You know, there was so many other issues going on with the DCEU that Cavill, get a director who is more lighthearted to do a Superman movie, because once again, I'm not a huge Superman guy, but my favorite stuff that has been Superman was the Christopher Reeve stuff. I liked movies 1 and 2. 3 and 4
It got weird.
3 and 4 get really weird. I'm not crazy about those ones, but movies 1 and 2 are great, and even to an extent, I really like the Brandon Routh one. That one's not bad. And I liked.
It was too safe, yeah.
Yeah, I liked Man of Steel. I mean, it's a very different flavor than the Christopher Reeve and Brandon Routh stuff, but there are aspects of Man of Steel I liked. I mean, the fight scenes were awesome, but yeah, once again, I would if they're gonna go out and bring Henry Cavill back in, go get a director who can, Superman is supposed to be like. I don't know if I got to talk to you about this, but the end of Batman. The Batman, to me, felt like the end of a Superman movie. Like Batman, like helping children out of the debris and like guiding light of people out of the building. You saw the movie, right? I'm not ruining for you.
Yeah. No, I've seen it.
Yeah, to me that felt much like I caused all this damage. I need to stick around and help them out. You know what I mean? Like that. To me, that felt more like a Superman scene than Batman. But I don't know.
Oh yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. I was like, I don't know if that felt like Batman to me. I mean, I guess it did, but...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Get a director that can do that to Superman. That's what Superman should be.
You need a director that, at its core, this is what I was even saying with like Halo, that understands what's important about that character or that story. And with Snyder, you didn't really have that. You had someone who I think liked comic books, and
I think he had a vision for everything, but not for
the show. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, and I'm not saying that those kind of stories shouldn't exist, but especially for something of the scale they were trying to do, there has to be a thread of what that character is about. Because people like Superman because of who Superman is, right? The character he became. Same thing with Batman. Same thing with Wonder Woman. Whoever it is. When you break down that facade too much, you lose that character, and then what is it you have that people like anymore? And I feel like that's what kind of started happening to Cavill's Superman. Like, I think Cavill does a great job embodying Superman. I mean, he's a monster of a guy, so I mean, he definitely fits that kind of this superhero.
And he's a nerd. He's somebody who takes the role seriously, man. Like he is somebody who, at heart, loves he pushed Trigon in The Witcher. He's huge on Warhammer stuff. He builds PCs. Like the dude is like.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate. I don't know how much of that necessarily buys into him being the perfect Superman, but he definitely
I just mean he's someone who likes nerd stuff. He likes nerd culture. He may not be the most knowledgeable Superman guy, but he he knows of Superman and takes his role seriously. So, oh, sorry.
Yeah, he's not like Tommy Lee Jones getting shoved into a Two-Face role that he can't stand.
Because his son wanted him to.
I think it really, though, comes down to the director you get. I mean, yes, you're right. The actor needs to understand the character, but I think it almost always comes down more to, well, I won't say more. It can very much be a combination of having that right director and having the right actor, and both of them kind of, meet that perfectly. Which those first few Superman movies, the director understood what Superman should be, and of course Christopher Reeves embodied it at the time. And I think Cavill could very much embody it, but they just need a director that's going to pull him back to that symbol of hope. And I don't know. I don't think we're going to get that, to be honest. I don't know if you...
I wonder if they take the guy that did the Batman and maybe they... I mean, I liked where they went with that movie. Maybe they elevate him and give him control, although you may run the risk of doing the same thing with Snyder where you give one person too much creative control, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we're probably at the point where they're not going to salvage Cavill. Like, the direction that his character went, where they could do with it, I think... they're probably just going to let that fade off, for better or for worse.
Just bring on Sam Raimi. Just give Sam Raimi, give him everything. Maybe. Give him Doctor Strange. I want to see him direct anything.
Yeah, as much as part of me would love to see a good DC EU kind of put back together, I think they're realizing it, and I think everybody else is probably starting to warm up to it. That's just not going to happen.
Batman is their bread and butter.
Or even just go back to the solo superhero movies. Like, yeah, make another Superman as its own thing. Don't try to pull in everybody else. I'm not saying that they're definitely going to do that. I mean, clearly they're trying to still wrap in some stuff with this next Flash movie, but I'm hoping they start leaning more and more away from it. Just go back to some good solo things that don't have the stakes of having to tie in with everything else.
It could have been the whole MCU thing was just like, I don't want to say flash in the pan because that has a negative connotation, but it could have been that, like, that did so well because they had the right people in place. Everything just worked. Everything, was like a puzzle. Everybody worked together. Well, not to say everybody, but like they knew what they were doing. They had a plan. They had the right people in charge.
Vision for what they were building towards. They put down the building blocks.
And if you don't have that, then don't go for it. Then try and just make great single movie, like you're saying.
Yeah, and I think we're also at the point you're seeing it just. I think with what movies are being successful now is people are getting that superhero fatigue anyway, especially the big, collaborative ones. Not saying that those are going to die off completely, but I think being like this big focal thing that you have to have this next Avenger level whatever, I think they're starting to get past just a little bit. So I think it's a good time to pull back, do some good solo movies, just kind of build up your characters, get some goodwill again. And then see where things take you. Maybe there's an opportunity down the line to pull them back together, but not right now.
I think a topic for another day would be super fascinating. Is I love watching Red Letter Media, RLM, and they were talking about how movies are just dying. Movies are dying, and I know people, and they were saying that people would argue against that because they look at Spider-Man and they say, "Oh, this is the third highest grossing movie ever," and it's like. Yes, but
a lot of things contributed to that.
A lot of things contributed to that. You have Tobey Maguire, you have all these other actors. It's like, what if that Spider-Man movie didn't have Tobey Maguire, didn't have the other guy? You don't have, because I think they were going off of like, there's another movie that got announced or that came out recently called, what was it, Moon something?
Moon Knight? Are you talking about?
No, not Moon Knight. It was like a sci-fi movie that just came out to theaters and it just like completely bombed. It was like cost them like $200 million to make. They made like $40 million or something, and it's just
movie theaters are still in a rough spot. I was at the theaters today. I took my daughter to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Oh, I want to. Was it good? I really want to see that.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This actually kind of gets into that one topic that we were going to skip for next week. It was good.
It's dumb humor.
Dumb humor, but it's a video game adaptation that really owns up to this is for kids. Like a lot of video game adaptations try to, mature it up or make it more serious. This is just like, nope, we know we're marketing to, 7 to 12-year-olds.
I would be okay with watching that.
It had some fun moments. Jim Carrey eats up whatever he's in, which is always good. So it was, my point being, granted, we went to, I think, the crappier theater. We went to the AMC that's around here. And it was
empty.
It looked like it was trashed, man. It just looked. I feel like I was going to like Detroit or something. I don't know.
I love Detroit. Shout out to our Detroit fans.
Yeah, sorry. Signs weren't working, and I don't know. There was like really dark, almost felt like an alleyway. I don't know. It was sad, but the theater was dead.
Did I show you the picture of what's his name, Brian Altano from IGN when he went to see Morbius? He said, "Hey," I thought
it was Greg Miller. You showed.
It might have been Greg Miller. I think they both did the same thing because they're friends. Yeah. But like they both took pictures of them in a Morbius. Or Greg Miller's was showed up 15 minutes late to the Morbius movie, and like there was nobody in the seats.
Yeah, it's a combination of people just don't care about these movies. Some people are still freaked out about the pandemic. Some people realize they can just watch it at home on Netflix.
I prefer to watch movies at home. Like, I don't understand.
And a lot of these publishers are making that more available. Like HBO is putting their stuff on within a day or
Batman comes out to HBO Max in like 9 days. I get to rewatch it then, you know?
So it's like, why would I spend? I mean, I took my daughter to the movie. It cost me $50. Yeah, for me and my 5-year-old daughter. So it's just like, why did I do that? So I think people are really, that's hitting hard. And, the way that we've been trained to, and this is a whole different spectrum, but people now are trained to watch shorter things too. Like you get people, who'd rather watch TikToks for 3 hours than watch a movie.
Red Letter Media mentioned that actually. They were like, kids nowadays are getting used to watching shorter things. Adults are getting used to sitting on their couches and watching things. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, and I don't think movies are going to go away.
No.
Movie theaters will definitely go away, and then certain movies will go away, like the ones that aren't worth people's time because there's so many other available options to buy for your entertainment. They're just not going to succeed, and they're going to die off. So I don't know. It's kind of sad.
I mean, as someone who worked in the theater industry for quite a bit, I don't want theaters to go away. I like what I've always said is I like having the option. I like this future of me having the option of watching it at home or go to the theater. I don't know. I feel like there are movies that I would rather go to a theater to watch. I really enjoyed going and watching the Batman in a big theater. I feel like that was I don't know, for me personally, that was a fun way to see that movie. Now again, I don't know if I would want to go see Sonic 2 in a theater, but that's just me. Yeah. I mean, you were with your daughter, so that's different. Yeah. But yeah, like me by myself.
It depends on the movie. Yeah. I'll tell you though, and I don't know if it's, once again, it could have been the theater I went to, but I feel like even when I went to the other theater that was local, or other Regal, it had some issues too. But this theater, like, it was not comfortable. It felt like hot in there.
I was great. The Regal I went, my was my old Regal I worked at, but yeah, that was great. Mine.
There was something I had an issue with when I went to last Regal. I can't remember what it was, but my point is, like, the experience, at least in some of the ones I went to lately, hasn't even been all that great. I couldn't imagine if I had just seen a better movie if it would have even been better in that particular environment. So I don't. And like the Batman, I'll tell you, like, I enjoyed watching it in theater. I think for that particular Batman movie, I would have been just as happy watching it at home. Like, because that Batman movie wasn't the grandiose Batman movie that some of the other superhero movies have been with, like, the big screen would have made a big impact. Like, it was slower, more intimate.
It was overindulgent on itself. There were some stuff that kind of dragged on, but yeah, I won't go into that movie specifically. But
I don't know. But I'm with you. I think movies are dying, or movie theaters are dying.
I think though I don't think movie theaters will die completely, but I think they will become.
They'll find a niche.
They'll find a niche, like drive-ins. There are still drive-ins, but
yeah, But you'll have like one theater in a 20-mile radius. Like, you're not going to find cities that have multiple movie theaters anymore. Like the one that's out here by me, the AMC. I don't feel like that's going to be around in the next couple of years. I feel like Regal will probably be the last game in town, and then from there, who knows? So a little sad, but it's where we're at.
It's sad, but I don't know. Like, it's sad because I don't want people to lose their jobs. Granted, I don't think that's a great job. As someone who worked in a theater, that job was great. But I'm not judging my fellow theater people. But yeah, once again, I don't know. I'm just so. I tell you, man, over the whole COVID thing, having access to HBO Plus. Or HBO, is that what it's called? I don't even know. HBO Max?
Yeah.
Man, I love watching at home. I don't know. There's just some... And maybe you could say it's because I'm lazy. I'm a content creator that doesn't like to leave his house. I'm a hermit, but... Man, just something about watching from home for me. It's just... It's
convenient.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be real, the movie theater experience for a lot of movies only adds so much. And when you really balance out the cost of it, unless you're just trying to make an event out of it, it's just not worth it. I mean, I'll flat out say it. There's a few movies.
I was gonna say I would take your daughter to as many movies as you can in case they do disappear. That way, that way when she's older, she could be like, "I remember I went to a theater
back when I was the ATOL." Yeah,
that's like us describing to her what Toys R Us is when she's like. Did she ever get to go into one? Now that I think about it.
Yeah, she did, but she was like two or three, so I was like, not gonna remember any of that.
Chuck E. Cheese, just for fun. All those things are gone.
Chuck E. Cheese is still around.
Is it? The one in...
Yeah, there's one by us.
Oh, I never look at it. Every time I drive by, I must avoid it. But,
Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, I thought they were going to go bankrupt for a while, but I'm actually really surprised they made it through COVID. Like, I don't know what they were doing during the COVID period. But
tune into the ChazmaN podcast. Your place to hear about Chuck E. Cheese. But yeah, well, I guess we talked about it. We did everything we could. Once again, guys, if you could be patient, I think this episode's going to go out a day or two late. No problem with that. I did want to, or you did say Phoenix, you're not going to be able to go next week, correct?
Right. It's just busy week.
No, it works. That works. Once again, I'll find something to do. Maybe I'll do an episode on my lonesome on the weekend. But yeah, I guess I'll have a few topics already kind of laid out for the following week when Phoenix can return. Once again, we did it all. Anything you wanted to say, Phoenix?
No, I've spoken way too much tonight, so I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing from me.
Oh no, you're the EnteR ChazmaN podcast, right? I'm not here.
What? You're not here? Who are you? What?
I said no. You're the whole shebang. Not
Oh, I am. That's right. This is the EnteR Phoenix podcast.
Yeah. See, I gotta give you a reason to come back and entertain me.
Entertain you.
Once again, guys, as always, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Phoenix.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, we'll see you again. I'll see you next week, or Phoenix will see you the following week. Bye bye. Adios. Night, peoples.